Victor Steele stood in his penthouse doorway, watching the woman he loved plant evidence that would destroy him. His hand moved toward the gun at his back. One bullet, that's all it would take. But his assistant's voice cut through the rage. "They want you to kill them. Federal agents are already in the elevator." In that moment, Victor realized the truth. His fiancée was a federal operative, his security chief her partner, and everything he'd built was a lie designed to end tonight. The empire he'd spent 20 years creating was about to collapse in the next 60 seconds. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The drive back to his San Francisco penthouse should have taken 30 minutes, but Victor made it in 18. He'd left the meeting early, something nagging at him, an instinct he'd learned to trust over 20 years of staying alive in a business that killed careless men. The downtown skyline glittered through his windshield as he pulled into the underground garage, the city he'd conquered looking the same as it always did. He didn't know yet that in less than an hour, none of it would be his anymore. Victor rode the private elevator to the 42nd floor, checking his phone. 3 missed calls from Marcus Kane, his head of security. That was unusual. Marcus never called 3 times unless something was wrong. Victor tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. The elevator doors opened onto his private foyer. Everything looked normal. The marble floors his decorator had insisted on, the abstract art that cost more than most people made in a year, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. But something felt off. The air was different, charged with a tension he couldn't name. He moved quietly, years of survival instincts overriding the impulse to call out. His hand drifted to the weapon he kept in a shoulder holster under his jacket, through the living room toward the study where he kept his most sensitive documents. The door was ajar, light spilling out. Victor pushed it open. Isabella Monroe, his fiancée, stood next to his desk with an evidence bag in her latex-gloved hands. Marcus Kane was across the room, photographing the contents of Victor's safe with a camera that looked government issue. They both froze when they saw him. For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Victor's brain tried to process what he was seeing, tried to make it make sense. Isabella was supposed to be at a charity gala across town. Marcus was supposed to be coordinating security for tomorrow's shipment. They weren't supposed to be here, in his private study, wearing gloves and handling evidence bags. "Victor," Isabella said, and her voice was different. Not the warm, slightly breathy tone she used when they were alone. This was clinical, professional, federal. "You weren't supposed to be back yet." The gun was in Victor's hand before he consciously decided to draw it. "What the hell is this?" Marcus moved, positioning himself between Isabella and Victor's weapon. That told Victor everything. Marcus, who'd been his most trusted man for 5 years, was protecting her instead of him. "Put the gun down," Marcus said. His voice was calm, measured. "Think about what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing." Victor's finger rested on the trigger guard. The rage was building now, hot and consuming. "How long? How long have you two been setting me up?" 18 months, Isabella said. She wasn't backing away, wasn't showing fear. If anything, she looked disappointed that he'd come home early. "We've been building this case for 18 months. We have everything, Victor. Financial records, communications, witness statements. You're done." The words hit him like physical blows. 18 months. Their entire relationship, the engagement he'd thought meant something, all of it a lie. "You're a Fed," he said, and it wasn't a question. "Special Agent Isabella Monroe, FBI. Marcus is Agent Cole Davis, also FBI. And you're about to be arrested for multiple federal crimes, including the murder of Senator James Rashford." She pulled out her badge, held it up like it proved something. "It's over." Victor's world tilted. Senator Rashford was dead? He hadn't even known, and they thought "I didn't kill any senator. I don't know what you're talking about." "The evidence says otherwise. We found the murder weapon in your safe. We have witnesses who saw you threatening Rashford 2 weeks ago. We have financial records showing you paid someone to eliminate him." Isabella's smile was cold. "You're going to prison for the rest of your life, Victor, or you're going to die resisting arrest. Either way works for us." The casual way she said it made something snap inside him. Victor raised the gun, aimed it at her chest. "You think I won't do it? You think I'll just let you destroy everything I've built?" "I think you're smarter than that," a new voice said from behind him. Victor spun. Nyla Reed stood in the doorway, his quiet assistant who'd worked for him for 3 years. She was holding her own weapon, but it wasn't pointed at him. It was pointed at the floor, her posture non-threatening. "Don't shoot them," Nyla said quietly. "That's what they want." "Nyla, get out of here. This doesn't concern you." "It concerns me more than you know." She took a step into the room. "They've been planning this for months. The senator's murder, the fabricated evidence, all of it. But the real plan isn't to arrest you, Victor. It's to kill you." Isabella laughed. "Don't listen to her. She's just trying to save her boss." "I'm trying to save an innocent man from walking into a trap." Nyla's eyes never left Victor. "There are federal agents in the building right now. They're preparing to breach this apartment. Isabella and Marcus planted evidence that makes you look like an armed and dangerous cop killer. When SWAT comes through that door, they're going to shoot first and ask questions later. That's the plan." Victor's hand was shaking now. The gun felt heavy, wrong. "How do you know this?" "Because I was sent here to kill you 9 months ago, by the Sinaloa cartel. You've been cutting into their distribution network, and they wanted you eliminated." Nyla's voice was steady, factual. "But I didn't kill you. I watched you instead, learned who you really are beneath the reputation, and I decided the cartel bosses didn't deserve to win." "This is insane," Marcus said. "Victor, she's lying. She's trying to manipulate you." "Am I?" Nyla pulled out her phone, held it up. "I've been monitoring federal communications for weeks. I know about Operation Clean Sweep. I know Isabella and Marcus have done this before, 4 times in the last 6 years. Miami, Chicago, twice in New York. They seduce high-value targets, manufacture evidence, coordinate federal raids, and eliminate the targets during arrest. Then they seize all the assets and skim 30 to 40% before it goes into evidence." Isabella's face went pale. "That's classified information. How did you Because I'm very good at my job, just like you're very good at yours." Nyla looked at Victor again. "We have about 90 seconds before SWAT breaches this floor. You can stand here and shoot them, which will guarantee you die. Or you can trust me and run. Your choice." Victor's mind raced. Everything Nyla was saying sounded crazy, impossible. But the fear in Isabella's eyes when Nyla mentioned the previous operations, that was real. And if even part of this was true, if they'd killed 4 other targets during similar raids, "Why should I trust you?" he asked Nyla. "Because you don't have anyone else. And because I've had 9 months to kill you, and I haven't." She moved to the wall, pressed something that made a panel slide open. "There's a service corridor behind here that leads to an old elevator shaft. We can be 3 blocks away before SWAT even realizes you're gone." "Victor, don't," Isabella said. Her professional mask was cracking now, desperation showing through. "If you run, you prove you're guilty. Stay. Cooperate. Let the system work. The system that fabricated evidence against me? The system you've been corrupting for 6 years?" Victor lowered his gun. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. "How many people have you killed, Isabella?" She didn't answer. "That's what I thought." Victor moved toward the hidden panel, toward Nyla. "Let's go." "Stop." Marcus pulled his weapon, aimed it at Victor's back. Nyla moved faster than Victor had ever seen her move. She closed the distance to Marcus in 2 steps, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The gun clattered to the floor. Marcus tried to counter, but Nyla hit him twice, once in the throat, once behind the ear. He went down hard. Isabella was pulling her own weapon now. Nyla kicked it out of her hand, then grabbed Victor's arm and pulled him through the hidden panel. "Go, go, go." They ran through a narrow corridor that smelled like dust and old concrete. Behind them, Victor heard Isabella shouting into a radio, calling for backup. The sounds of boots pounding on marble echoed through the walls. "Here!" Nyla pulled open a maintenance hatch, revealing a ladder descending into darkness. 3 floors down, then we cut across to the service elevator. Victor climbed down without questioning. His hands were still shaking, his mind trying to catch up with what had just happened. His fiancée was a federal agent. His security chief was her partner. They'd been planning to kill him during a raid, and his quiet assistant was apparently an assassin sent by a Mexican cartel. They reached the bottom of the ladder. Nyla led him through another corridor, this one even narrower, then through a door marked Authorized Personnel Only. They emerged into a service elevator that hadn't been used in years based on the dust. Nyla hit the button for the parking garage. The elevator lurched into motion with a groan of old machinery. How did you know about this? Victor asked. I told you. I was planning to kill you. I mapped every inch of this building, every escape route, every security weakness. Nyla was checking her phone, monitoring something. They've breached your apartment. SWAT is sweeping the floors now. We have maybe 3 minutes before they realize you're not there and expand the search. The elevator shuddered to a stop. The doors opened onto the parking garage 2 levels below Victor's private spot. Nyla moved quickly, leading him to a nondescript Honda that looked like it belonged to someone's grandmother. Get in! Victor got in. The car started immediately, Nyla driving at exactly the speed limit toward the exit. At the guard booth, she smiled pleasantly at the attendant, showed him a parking pass Victor had never seen before, and they were through, out onto the street, into the San Francisco night, away from the penthouse, away from the life Victor had built, away from everything. Where are we going? He asked. Somewhere safe, temporarily. Nyla took a left, heading toward the Tenderloin. We need to lay low until I can figure out our next move. Our next move? There is no hour. You just said you were sent to kill me. I was, but I chose not to. And now we're in this together, whether you like it or not. Neela glanced at him. Isabella and Marcus won't stop coming. They've invested too much in your takedown. They'll hunt you until they eliminate the threat. So what do? We prove you're innocent. We expose what they've been doing, and we make sure they're the ones who go to prison instead of you. Nyla's voice was calm, like she was discussing the weather instead of taking on a corrupt federal operation. But first, you need to understand what we're up against. She pulled the car into an alley behind a Vietnamese restaurant, killed the engine, and turned to face him fully for the first time since they'd escaped. Isabella Monroe isn't just a federal agent. She's the architect of a criminal enterprise that's been operating inside the FBI for at least 6 years. She identifies high-value targets, crime bosses, corrupt officials, cartel financiers, and she seduces them, gets close, gains their trust, learns their operations. Then she manufactures evidence, coordinates federal raids, and eliminates the targets during arrest. It looks legitimate because the targets are criminals. The government gets wins, recovers billions in assets. Isabella and Marcus get promotions and commendations. And money, Victor said, understanding. You said they skim assets, 30 to 40% of everything they seize. They've stolen close to $2 billion over 6 years. They have accounts in Luxembourg, real estate in Monaco, art collections in Geneva. They're not doing this for justice, Victor. They're doing it for profit. Victor's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. 17 missed calls, dozens of texts. His organization was already falling apart, people panicking, scrambling to save themselves. By tomorrow, his empire would be scattered to the winds. How do you know all this? He asked. Because after I decided not to kill you, I needed a new exit strategy. The Sinaloa people don't accept retirement, so I started investigating Isabella and Marcus, figuring if I could expose a corrupt federal operation, I might be able to negotiate my own freedom. I've been compiling evidence for 8 months. You were going to use me as bait. I was going to use you as a partner. There's a difference. Nyla pulled out a different phone, encrypted, showed him files. This is everything. Financial records, communications, documentation of their previous operations. It's enough to bring them down. We just need to get it in front of the right people. Victor scrolled through the files. The detail was staggering: bank transactions, surveillance footage, witness statements. Who else knows about this? No one. Yet. But I have contacts who can help. A deputy director at the FBI who's been investigating Isabella but can't get authorization to move on her. A lawyer who represented one of her previous targets and never believed his client was guilty. An agent on Isabella's team who I think is uncomfortable with how things are being run. You're talking about going after federal agents, people with serious power. I'm talking about stopping criminals who happen to have badges. Nyla put the phone away. Look, I get that this is overwhelming. An hour ago you were planning your wedding. Now you're a fugitive with your face about to be plastered all over the news. But you have a choice to make. You can run, take some money and disappear to a country without extradition. Or you can fight back, expose what Isabella and Marcus are doing, clear your name. Victor thought about Isabella's face when she told him he was done, the cold satisfaction in her eyes. The casual way she'd said he'd die resisting arrest. She'd played him perfectly for 18 months, made him fall in love with a fiction, all so she could destroy him and steal everything he'd built. "I want to fight," he said. "Then we fight." Nyla started the car again. "But you need to understand what that means. We're going up against people who've killed before and will kill again. We'll be hunted by the FBI, local law enforcement, maybe even by your own people who think you're a cop killer. And if we fail, we don't get arrested. We disappear." "I understand." "Do you? Because once we start this, there's no going back. You'll burn every bridge, alienate every ally, risk everything on the chance that we can expose Isabella before she buries us." Nyla's eyes were hard in the streetlight. "Are you really ready for that?" Victor looked out at the city he'd conquered, the empire he'd built that was already crumbling, 20 years of work, gone in a single night. 20 years of carefully constructed power, demolished by a woman who'd made him believe she loved him. "I'm ready," he said. "What's our first move?" Neela drove them to a safe house in the Tenderloin, a third-floor walk-up above the Vietnamese restaurant. The stairs creaked under their weight. Inside was sparse: table, 2 chairs, mattress on the floor, blackout curtains over the windows. "Home sweet home," Nyla said, locking 3 separate deadbolts behind them. Victor moved to the window, carefully pulled back the curtain to look at the street below. Normal foot traffic, delivery trucks making late-night runs, no obvious surveillance. "How long can we stay here?" "Not long. Maybe 48 hours before someone makes a connection. But we don't need long." Nyla pulled a laptop from a hidden compartment in the floor. "We just need enough time to plan." She opened the laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. The screen filled with files, thousands of them. Financial records, communication logs, encrypted transactions, surveillance footage. "This is your insurance policy," Neela said. "Everything we need to prove Isabella and Marcus are running a criminal operation. But insurance only works if we can get it in front of someone who'll act on it." "The deputy director you mentioned." "Graham Chen, FBI. He's been investigating Isabella for 18 months, but he can't get authorization to move on her because she's too politically connected. But if someone handed him undeniable evidence along with a credible witness..." Nyla trailed off meaningfully. "I'm not credible. I'm a crime boss wanted for murdering a senator. You're a crime boss who just got framed for murder by the people Chen is trying to catch. That makes you very credible." Nyla pulled up another file. "But we can't just walk into FBI headquarters and hand this over. Isabella has people everywhere. She'll know the moment Chen gets the files, and she'll move to discredit both the evidence and you before anyone can verify it." "So what do? We go public. Big, loud, impossible to ignore." Nyla showed him an event invitation. 3 days from now, there's a gala at the Fairmont. Law enforcement awards, political donors, society people. Isabella will be there accepting an award for outstanding service. It's perfect. Public, high profile, impossible to sweep under the rug. Victor saw where she was going. "We crash her party." "We don't just crash it. We expose everything in front of everyone who matters. Politicians, media, her own bosses. We make it so big and so public that nobody can cover it up." Neela's eyes were bright now. "But we need 3 days to prepare. We need credentials. We need to get our evidence onto the hotel's network. And we need backup witnesses who can corroborate what we're saying." "You have witnesses?" "I have a lawyer who's been fighting one of Isabella's previous cases for 2 years. I have an agent on her team who I think is ready to turn. And I might have you, if you're willing to testify to everything you know." Nyla closed the laptop. "But Victor, I need you to commit to this. Because once we start, there's no going back. We're going after federal agents, political figures, people with serious power. If we fail, we don't just go to prison. We disappear." Victor thought about Isabella's smile when she'd told him he was done. About Marcus, who he'd trusted with his life. About the empire he'd built. 20 years of work, gone in a single night. "I'm in," he said. "Whatever it takes." "Good." Neela stood, started pulling equipment from various hiding spots around the apartment. "Then we start tomorrow. I need to make contact with my witnesses, verify they're willing to cooperate. You need to stay out of sight. By tomorrow afternoon, your face will be all over the news. Wanted for the murder of a U.S. senator, extremely dangerous. Do not approach." They really think people will believe I killed a senator? They've been setting this up for weeks. The murder weapon has your prints on it, probably lifted from something in your apartment. They have witnesses who'll swear they saw you threatening Rashford. They have financial records showing payments to a contract killer. The evidence is fabricated, but it's thorough. Isabella's good at this, Victor. She's done it 4 times before and gotten away with it every time. Who are the others? The other targets? Nyla pulled up a file. Miami, 2018. Carlos Mendez, cartel financier, died during a raid on his compound. Official report says he opened fire on federal agents. Chicago, 2019. Richard Paulson, corrupt city official, hung himself in his cell before trial. Official report says suicide. New York, 2020. 2 targets. Vincent Russo, mob-connected lawyer. Heart attack during interrogation. And Thomas Chen, no relation to Deputy Director Chen, human trafficking organizer. Shot trying to escape custody. They're all dead. Every single one. And every death looked legitimate at the time because these were bad people doing bad things. But if you look at the pattern, at the evidence that was used to build the cases, it's all the same. Witnesses appearing at the right time, evidence surfacing too conveniently, financial records that tie everything together too neatly. Isabella manufactures the perfect case, then eliminates the target before they can expose her. Victor felt sick. And Senator Rashford? Did they kill him too? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Nyla pulled out another laptop. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be rough. Victor lay down on the mattress, but sleep didn't come easily. His mind raced through everything that had happened, everything he'd learned. An hour ago, he'd been one of the most powerful men in San Francisco. Now he was in a safe house with a repentant assassin, planning to take down a corrupt federal agent. His phone buzzed again. He looked at it against his better judgment. The news was already breaking. FBI searches penthouse of suspected crime boss. Victor Steele wanted in connection with Senator's murder. Manhunt underway for dangerous fugitive. They'd worked fast. Isabella had probably already given interviews, playing the heartbroken fiancé who'd helped bring a monster to justice. Marcus would be there too, the loyal security chief who'd turned informant. The story was writing itself exactly the way they'd planned. Except Victor wasn't dead or in custody, and Nyla had evidence that could destroy them. He finally drifted into uneasy sleep, dreaming about Isabella's cold smile and the empire he'd lost. Morning came too soon. Nyla was already up, 3 laptops running, monitoring news feeds and federal communications simultaneously. She'd changed clothes, dark jeans, black shirt, running shoes, practical, forgettable. "You're all over the news," she said without looking up. FBI held a press conference an hour ago. $5 million reward for information leading to your arrest. They're painting you as extremely dangerous, likely armed, with nothing to lose. That'll make people shoot first and ask questions later. That's the idea. Isabella wants you dead, not arrested. Dead men can't testify. Nyla finally looked at him. I've made contact with 2 of our potential witnesses. The lawyer, Derek Shaw, is willing to meet this afternoon. The agent on Isabella's team, Rachel Park, is more cautious, but I think I can convince her. What about Deputy Director Chen? Can't approach him directly yet. Isabella has people watching his communications. But once we have the other witnesses lined up, once we have our plan set, we'll bring him in. Nyla stood, stretched. Get cleaned up. We're meeting Shaw in 3 hours. You need to look less like a fugitive and more like someone telling the truth. The safe house had a small bathroom with a shower that worked better than Victor expected. He cleaned up, changed into clothes Nyla had somehow procured overnight. Jeans, plain shirt, jacket. Looking at himself in the mirror, he barely recognized the person staring back. Gone was Victor Steele, crime empire leader. What remained looked more like a desperate man running out of options, which, he supposed, was accurate. They left the safe house separately, Nyla first to scout for surveillance, Victor following 5 minutes later. They met 3 blocks away at a bus stop, rode public transportation across the bay to Oakland. Shaw's office was in a converted warehouse, the kind of place that screamed struggling legal practice. Shaw himself was mid-40s with graying hair and the tired eyes of someone who'd fought too many losing battles. He studied Victor carefully when Nyla made the introductions. "You're either very brave or very stupid," Shaw said. I'm guessing stupid. Probably both, Victor agreed. Shaw gestured them into his cramped office. Files were stacked everywhere, evidence of a man who took on too many cases for too little money. Nyla says you have information about Isabella Monroe, Shaw said once the door was closed. More than information, proof. Nyla pulled out a tablet, showed him the files. Shaw spent 20 minutes going through the evidence, his expression growing darker with each page. When he finished, he leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. I knew it, he said quietly. I knew Carlos Mendez was set up. The evidence was too perfect, the witnesses too convenient. But nobody would listen because Mendez was a bad guy. He'd hurt people, destroyed lives. Who cares if the evidence was fabricated? You cared, Nyla said. I cared because if they can fabricate evidence against one person, they can fabricate it against anyone. That's not justice. That's tyranny with a badge. Shaw looked at Victor. You didn't kill Senator Rashford. No. Can you prove it? Not yet. But I can prove Isabella fabricated evidence against me, and I can prove she's done it before. Multiple times. Victor leaned forward. I need your help. Your testimony about the Mendez case, your documentation of the irregularities. It'll support our larger narrative that this is part of a pattern. Shaw was quiet for a moment. You understand what you're asking? If I testify against federal agents, if I publicly accuse them of corruption and murder, my career is over. I'll be blacklisted, disbarred probably. I'll never work as a lawyer again. I understand, and I wouldn't ask if there was another way. There isn't another way. That's the problem. Shaw stood, moved to a filing cabinet, started pulling folders. I've been documenting Isabella's irregularities for 2 years. Every inconsistency in the Mendez case, every piece of evidence that didn't quite fit. I knew someday I'd need it. He dumped the folders on his desk. There were dozens of them, all meticulously organized. This is 2 years of work, Shaw said. 2 years of people telling me I'm crazy, that I'm just trying to get a guilty client off. 2 years of knowing something was wrong and not being able to prove it. He looked at Victor. But I can prove it now. With your evidence combined with mine, we have a real case. Nyla started photographing the documents, working quickly and efficiently. Victor watched, feeling something like hope stirring in his chest. They had a lawyer willing to testify. They had documentation of Isabella's previous operations. They had a plan. They might actually pull this off. When are you planning to move? Shaw asked. 3 days. There's a gala at the Fairmont where Isabella will be receiving an award. We're going to expose everything publicly, in front of everyone who matters. Nyla didn't look up from her photographing. We need you there, as a witness, as someone who can speak to the pattern of fabricated evidence. I'll be there. Shaw pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back. This is my personal cell. Call me when you're ready. I'll bring everything I have. They left Shaw's office an hour later with documentation of the Mendez case and a committed witness. Victor felt the first real optimism since this nightmare began. They were building something real, something that might actually work. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Victor? It was a woman's voice, unfamiliar. This is Rachel Park. I'm a federal agent working on Isabella Monroe's task force. Nyla Reed reached out to me this morning. We need to talk. Victor looked at Nyla. She nodded. Okay, Victor said. When and where? They met Rachel at a park in the Sunset District 2 hours later. She was mid-30s, Asian American, with the careful manner of someone who'd learned not to trust easily. She chose a bench with clear sightlines, positioned herself so she could watch the entrances. You're Victor Steele, Rachel said when they sat down. I am. You're wanted for murder. I'm aware. Rachel looked at Nyla. You're either the bravest person I've ever met or the most insane. Maybe both. Definitely both, Nyla agreed. Rachel pulled out her phone, but she didn't make a call. Instead, she showed them photos, financial documents, communications between Isabella and someone named Cole. I've been collecting evidence for 6 months. Something's wrong with how Isabella runs operations. Evidence appears too conveniently. Witnesses seem coached. Asset recovery numbers don't match what goes into official records. Because she's stealing them, Victor said. 30 to 40% of every seizure goes into offshore accounts before it hits the official books. Rachel's hand shook slightly. I suspected, but I couldn't prove it. She's too careful, too connected. But if what you're showing me is real... She trailed off, scrolling through the files Nyla had sent her. They sat in silence while Rachel reviewed the evidence. Around them, normal San Francisco life continued. People walking dogs, kids playing, joggers passing by. None of them knew they were sitting next to a fugitive and two federal agents planning to bring down their own organization. This is enough, Rachel said finally. This is more than enough. With this evidence, with Shaw's testimony, with what I've collected, we can actually take her down. Will you testify? Nyla asked. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. I've been with the FBI for 12 years. It's my whole life. No family to speak of, no existence outside the job. And you're asking me to destroy that, to become the agent who turned on her own task force. We're asking you to do the right thing, Victor said. But yes, it'll probably destroy your career. At least you're honest about it. Rachel stood, paced a few steps. 3 weeks ago, I found communications between Isabella and Cole that referenced handling a previous target who'd started asking questions. The target died in prison 2 days later, officially ruled a suicide. They had him killed, Nyla said. I think so. I can't prove it, but Rachel's voice cracked slightly. If I'm right, if they're killing people to protect this operation, then I've been complicit. I've been part of it for 3 years. You didn't know, Victor said. You suspected, you investigated, and now you know. What matters is what you do next. Rachel sat back down, her decision made. Okay, I'm in. But we do this professionally, by the book as much as possible. When we expose Isabella, it needs to be airtight. No room for her to wiggle out on technicalities. They spent the next hour coordinating. Rachel had access to security protocols for the gala, knew which federal agents would be on duty, could identify the politicians and officials who needed to see the evidence. She was methodical, precise, turning their rough plan into something that might actually work. What about Cole? Rachel asked. He's dangerous. Ex-military, extensive combat training. If things go wrong, he won't hesitate to use lethal force. I'll handle Cole, Nyla said quietly. Rachel looked at her and something passed between them. An understanding, maybe, or a recognition. You've killed before. Yes. How many? Enough that I stopped counting. Nyla's voice was flat. But I'm trying to stop being that person. This is my chance to do something right instead of just profitable. Rachel nodded slowly. Okay, just try not to kill anyone at the gala if we can avoid it. No promises, but I'll try. They parted ways as the sun was setting. Victor and Nyla took a circuitous route back to their safe house, doubling back twice to make sure they weren't followed. Inside, Nyla immediately started updating their files, incorporating Rachel's information into the overall plan. We're actually going to do this, Victor said, more to himself than to her. Yeah, we are. Nyla looked up from her laptop. But, Victor, you need to understand something. Even if everything goes perfectly, even if we expose Isabella and clear your name, your old life is gone. The empire you built, the power you had, that's over. You'll never get it back. I know. Do you? Because some part of you is probably still hoping this all gets fixed and you can go back to being who you were. But that person doesn't exist anymore. Whether we win or lose, Victor Steele, the crime boss, died the moment Isabella framed you for murder. Victor sat down heavily. She was right. Even if they proved his innocence, even if they took down Isabella and Cole, his organization was finished. His allies had already scattered. His assets were frozen or seized. His reputation was destroyed. There was no going back. So what do I become instead? He asked. I don't know, but maybe that's the point. Maybe you get to choose who you are instead of who you were. Nyla went back to her laptop. Get some rest. Tomorrow we finalize the plan, then we wait for the gala. Victor lay on the mattress, staring at the water-stained ceiling. Somewhere across the bay, Isabella was probably celebrating, thinking she'd won. Thinking Victor was either dead or about to be captured. She had no idea what was coming for her. 3 days. In 3 days, they'd expose everything. In 3 days, Victor would either clear his name or die trying. For the first time in his life, he was okay with those odds. The tunnel smelled like rust and decades of standing water. Victor's dress shoes weren't made for this. Each step splashed through puddles he couldn't see in the dim emergency lighting. Maya moved ahead of him with the confidence of someone who'd mapped every inch of this route, her sneakers silent against the concrete. "How long have you known about this?" Victor's voice echoed off the curved walls. 6 months, Maya said without looking back. "I was supposed to use it for extraction after I killed you. Appreciate the honesty." Seemed like the time for it. Behind them, muffled shouting filtered through the maintenance shaft they'd crawled through. The SWAT team had breached the penthouse by now. Victor tried not to think about what they'd find. Isabella's carefully staged crime scene, Cole's fabricated witness statements, the murder weapon with Victor's prints all over it. She'd been thorough. He had to give her that. "Where does this go?" he asked. "Embarcadero Station, old service tunnel they sealed off in the 80s. Maya stopped at a junction, checked her phone's compass. "We come up 3 blocks from the federal perimeter. After that, we're on our own." Victor caught up to her, breathing harder than he wanted to admit. "And then what?" "Then we figure out how to stay alive long enough to prove you didn't kill Senator Rashford." "I didn't even know Rashford was dead until 10 minutes ago." Maya finally looked at him. In the flickering light, her face was harder than he'd ever seen it. "He's been dead for 3 days. Isabella's been setting this up for months, Victor. The affair, the engagement, all of it. You were just the mark." Something cold settled in Victor's chest. "How many others?" "That I know of, 4. Before you." Maya started walking again. "Miami, Chicago, 2 in New York. All of them high-value targets. Crime bosses, corrupt officials, cartel financiers. She gets close. Manufactures evidence. Federal agents swoop in. Assets seized, operations collapsed. Targets either killed resisting arrest or locked up for life. And nobody's caught on. Who's going to complain? The people she takes down are criminals. The government gets wins, recovers billions in assets. Isabella and Cole get promotions and commendations. It's a perfect system." Victor's jaw tightened. "Until now." "Until now," Maya agreed. They reached a ladder bolted to the wall. Maya climbed first, pushing up a heavy grate at the top. Cold night air rushed down. Victor followed, his shoulder protesting as he hauled himself up onto cracked asphalt. They were in an alley behind a shuttered warehouse, graffiti covering every surface. Maya replaced the grate and pulled out her phone. "We've got maybe 30 minutes before they expand the search grid. We need to move." "Where?" "Safe house in the Tenderloin. It's not much, but it's off the grid." She glanced at him. "You okay to walk?" "Do I have a choice?" "Not really." They kept to the shadows, avoiding the main streets. Victor had walked these blocks 1,000 times in his previous life, the life that had ended about 20 minutes ago. He'd owned half the businesses on this street, had cops and politicians in his pocket, commanded respect from people who didn't respect much. Now he was just another guy in an expensive suit running from the law. "You said you were sent to kill me," Victor said as they crossed an empty intersection. "By who?" Maya was quiet for a moment. "The Sinaloa people. You've been cutting into their distribution routes for 2 years. They wanted you gone. So why didn't you do it?" "I watched you for 3 weeks before I was supposed to make the hit." Maya's voice was flat, almost clinical. "Learned your patterns, your security, your weaknesses. Standard protocol. But I also learned other things." "Like what?" "Like how you personally paid for your doorman's daughter's surgery. How you shut down one of your own gambling operations when you found out they were taking money from people who couldn't afford it. How you visited your mother every Sunday at that care facility in Daly City, even though she doesn't remember who you are anymore." Victor didn't say anything. "You're a criminal," Maya continued. "You've hurt people, destroyed lives, built an empire on blood and fear. But you're not just that. And the Sinaloa bosses who sent me? They're just that. Nothing else. So I decided they didn't get to kill you. That's not how these things work. They'll come after you." "They already did. I handled it." Maya turned down another alley. "We're close." The safe house was a 3rd-floor walk-up above a Vietnamese restaurant. The stairs creaked under their weight. Maya unlocked 3 separate deadbolts before pushing the door open. Inside was sparse: a table, 2 chairs, a mattress on the floor, blackout curtains over the windows. "Home sweet home," Maya said, locking the door behind them. Victor moved to the window, carefully pulling back the curtain to look at the street below. Normal foot traffic, no obvious surveillance. "How long can we stay here?" "Not long, maybe 48 hours before someone makes a connection." Maya was already pulling a laptop from a hidden compartment in the floor. "But we don't need long. We just need enough time to plan." "Plan what?" "My entire organization just got dismantled. Every asset I have is either frozen or seized. Half my people probably think I'm dead. The other half think I killed a senator." Victor let the curtain fall. "What exactly am I planning with?" Maya opened the laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. "You're planning with this." The screen filled with files, thousands of them. Financial records, communication logs, encrypted transactions, surveillance footage. Victor recognized some of it. His own operations, carefully documented. But there was other material too, things he'd never seen. "What is this?" "Your insurance policy. I've been compiling it for 8 months." Maya pulled up a folder labeled Phoenix. "Every major transaction you've made, every deal, every arrangement with city officials and business partners, but also, and this is the important part, every piece of dirt on everyone you've ever worked with." Victor leaned over her shoulder. "This is leverage, evidence, ammunition." Maya opened another folder. Bank accounts in the Caymans, property deeds, offshore holdings, all under shell companies Isabella doesn't know about because I set them up myself. "You're not broke, Victor. You just can't access anything she knows about." He stared at the screen, something like hope stirring in his chest. "How much?" "Liquid assets, about 40 million. Properties and investments, another 120, give or take." She looked up at him. "Enough to disappear if you want, or enough to fight back." "I'm not disappearing." "I didn't think so." Maya closed the laptop. "Then we need to talk about Isabella and Cole, about what they're really doing and why it matters." Victor pulled out one of the chairs and sat. His hands were shaking slightly, adrenaline crash. "I'm listening." Maya sat across from him. "The federal program they're running? It's not sanctioned. At least not officially. It's a black operation funded through seized assets. Isabella and Cole recruit targets, build cases, execute takedowns. The government looks the other way because the results are good. But the money they recover? A lot of it doesn't make it back to the Treasury. They're skimming. More than skimming. They're running a parallel operation. Every target they take down, they siphon off 30 to 40% of recovered assets before the official seizure happens. They've got accounts in Luxembourg, real estate in Monaco, art collections in Geneva. Over the past 6 years, they've stolen somewhere around $2 billion. Victor let out a slow breath. "And you know this how?" "Because I'm very good at my job, and because I spent the last 8 months planning to expose them." Maya's expression didn't change. "I told you I was sent to kill you. That was true. But after I decided not to, I needed a new exit strategy. The Sinaloa people don't accept retirement. So I figured if I could bring down a corrupt federal operation and hand it to the right people, I might be able to negotiate my own freedom. You were going to use me as bait. I was going to use you as a partner. There's a difference." She pulled out her phone, showed him a photo. "This is Assistant Director Graham Chen, FBI. He's been investigating Isabella and Cole for 18 months, but he can't get authorization to move on them because they're too politically connected. But if someone handed him undeniable evidence along with a credible witness, I'm not credible. I'm a crime boss. You're a crime boss who just got framed for murder by the people Chen is trying to catch. That makes you very credible." Maya put the phone away. "Look, here's the situation. Isabella thinks she won. She thinks you're either dead or in custody within the next few hours. She'll spend the next 48 hours consolidating, making sure all her evidence is airtight, preparing for the media cycle. That's our window." "Window for what?" "To flip the script." Maya stood, started pacing. "She's planning a celebration, 3 days from now. Big gala at the Fairmont, all the major players, politicians, federal brass, society people. She'll be there accepting an award for outstanding service. It's perfect, public, high profile, impossible to sweep under the rug." Victor saw where she was going. "We crash her party." "We don't just crash it, we burn it down. Maya's eyes were bright now, energized. We go in with everything, the evidence of her theft, proof she fabricated cases, documentation of everyone she's worked with. We expose the whole operation in front of everyone who matters. Politicians, media, her own bosses. We make it so big and so public that nobody can cover it up. She'll have security, federal agents, probably half the SFPD. I know. That's why we need 3 days to prepare. Maya stopped pacing. But Victor, I need to know you're committed to this, because once we start, there's no going back. We're going after federal agents, political figures, people with serious power. If we fail, we don't just go to prison, we disappear. Victor thought about Isabella's face when he'd caught her in the penthouse. The complete lack of surprise, the cold calculation in her eyes. She'd looked at him like he was already dead, just a problem to be processed. He thought about Cole, who he'd trusted with his life, who'd been planning to destroy him the whole time. He thought about his empire, 20 years of work, gone in a single night. I'm in, he said. What do we need? Maya smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. First, we need to get you off the wanted list, or at least create enough confusion to buy us time. I've got a contact at a TV station who owes me a favor. We leak a story that casts doubt on the evidence against you. Nothing too aggressive, just enough to make the FBI look incompetent for letting you slip through their fingers. They'll double down on finding me. Exactly, which is why the second thing we need is a decoy. Maya pulled out a burner phone. I know someone who looks enough like you to fool surveillance cameras. We put him on a plane to Mexico City tomorrow morning, use your passport, make it obvious. FBI wastes resources chasing him while we work here. What about Isabel and Cole? They'll know I'm still in the city. Let them know. Let them worry. Maya was typing on her phone. The more nervous they get, the more mistakes they make. And we need them to make mistakes. Victor stood, walked to the window again. Outside, the city looked the same as it always had. People walking dogs, delivery trucks making late-night runs. Life continuing like his world hadn't just exploded. What's the third thing? The third thing is the hard part. Maya put her phone down. We need someone on the inside. Someone currently embedded in Isabella's operation who can feed us real-time intelligence and help us get into the gala. You have someone like that? Maybe. There's an agent named Rachel Park. She works on Isabella's team, but I have reason to believe she's uncomfortable with how things are being run. If we can approach her correctly, flip her. That's a big if. Everything about this plan is a big if. Maya met his eyes. But it's the only plan we've got. Unless you want to take the money and run to some island where there's no extradition. Victor shook his head. I spent 20 years building something. I'm not letting that woman take it from me without a fight. Then we fight. Maya extended her hand. Partners? Victor looked at her hand for a moment, then took it. Her grip was firm, steady. Partners. They spent the next hour going through the details. Maya had backup phones, fake IDs, cash in 3 different currencies. She had safe houses scattered across the city, escape routes planned to the minute, contacts in places Victor had never thought to cultivate. It was clear she'd been preparing for something like this for a long time. Get some sleep, Maya finally said, closing the laptop. We start tomorrow at 6. I need to make contact with my TV person, set up the decoy, and do preliminary reconnaissance on Rachel Park. What about you? I'll sleep later. Someone needs to monitor federal communications. Make sure they're not getting close. She pulled out another laptop. Go on. You look like hell. Victor couldn't argue with that. He moved to the mattress, every muscle in his body aching. He'd been running on adrenaline for hours, and now that it was wearing off, exhaustion hit him like a wave. He lay down, staring at the water-stained ceiling. In the corner, he could hear Maya typing, the soft glow of the laptop screen illuminating her face. An assassin sent to kill him who'd decided not to. His last ally in a world that had turned against him overnight. Maya, he said quietly. Yeah? Why did you really decide not to kill me? The stuff about my mother and the doorman, that doesn't seem like enough. She was quiet for so long he thought she wasn't going to answer. Then, my first target was a banker in Sao Paulo. Money launderer for a trafficking ring. I watched him for 2 weeks, learned everything about him. Then I broke into his apartment and put a gun to his head while he slept. Victor waited. He woke up and started crying, begging me not to kill him. saying he had kids, a wife. He'd made mistakes, but he wanted to change. All the things people say. Maya's voice was flat, emotionless. I killed him anyway, because that's what I was paid to do. And for years after that, I told myself it didn't matter. He was a criminal. He'd hurt people. He deserved it. But I was 19 years old, and I killed a man while he cried and begged for his life. And I never let myself think about what that meant, about what it made me. She paused. When I was watching you, I realized if I killed you, I'd be doing it because someone paid me to. Not because you deserved it, not because it would make the world better, just because someone gave me money, and I couldn't do that again. Victor turned on his side to look at her. So you decided to save me instead. I decided not to kill you. The saving part came later. Maya glanced over at him. Don't make it into something noble. I'm still a murderer. I'm still the person who pulled that trigger in Sao Paulo and a dozen times since. I wanted to stop being only that. We're quite a pair. Yeah, we really are. Maya turned back to her laptop. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be rough. Victor closed his eyes. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Maybe coming for him, maybe not. In his old life, he would have known. Would have had people feeding him information, keeping him ahead of the game. Now he was in a safe house with a repentant assassin, planning to take down a corrupt federal agent while half the law enforcement in California searched for him. He should have been terrified. Part of him was. But another part, a part he'd thought he'd lost years ago, felt something else. Alive. For the first time in longer than he could remember, every decision mattered. Every move was critical. There was no safety net, no empire to protect him, no money or power to smooth things over. Just him and Maya against the world. He fell asleep thinking about Isabella's face when he exposed her in front of everyone she'd ever manipulated. It was going to be spectacular. Morning came too early. Victor woke to Maya shaking his shoulder, a cup of coffee already in her hand. We've got movement, she said. FBI held a press conference 20 minutes ago. You're officially wanted for the murder of Senator Rashford. They're offering a $5 million reward. Victor sat up, taking the coffee. That's fast. Isabella's pushing hard. She wants you caught or killed before you have a chance to tell your side. Maya showed him her phone. The news was everywhere. His photo, details of his criminal enterprise, speculation about his relationship with the murdered senator. But there's something else. The press conference had some inconsistencies. Wrong details about the crime scene, timeline issues. My contact at the station is already asking questions. Is that good or bad? Good for us. Means the story isn't as airtight as Isabella thinks. Maya pulled out a different phone. Your decoy is set. He boards a flight to Mexico City in 3 hours. I've made sure he'll be spotted by at least 4 security cameras. And Rachel Park? Still working on it. I need to be careful about the approach. If she reports back to Isabella, we're done. Maya drained her own coffee. But I have an idea. Park's been working a lot of late nights lately, always alone. I think she might be building her own insurance file. If that's true, she's already thinking about getting out. Victor stood, stretched. His suit was ruined, wrinkled and stained from the tunnel. I need new clothes. There's a bag in the closet. Should fit well enough. Maya was already packing up the laptops. We're not staying here today. Too risky now that you're all over the news. I've got another location in the mission. We'll move in an hour. They spent the next 45 minutes sanitizing the apartment, removing any trace they'd been there. Maya worked with practiced efficiency, wiping surfaces, checking for stray hairs or fibers. Victor watched her work and wondered how many times she'd done this before, erasing evidence of her existence from places she'd never returned to. The new safe house was smaller, a studio apartment in a building that had seen better decades. But it had a clear view of the street and 2 different exits. Maya set up her equipment while Victor changed into the clothes she'd provided. Jeans, a plain black shirt, a jacket that didn't fit quite right. You look almost normal, Maya said without looking up from her laptop. I feel like a stranger. Good, that's the point. She pulled up a file. Okay, I've been monitoring federal communications. They bought the decoy. Half the task force just got diverted to SFO to intercept the Mexico City flight. That gives us about 6 hours before they realize it's not you. What do we do with 6 hours? Maya smiled. We go meet Rachel Park. Rachel Park lived in a modest apartment in the Sunset District, the kind of place a federal agent on a government salary could actually afford. Maya had been watching her routine for 3 days prior to everything falling apart, which meant she knew Rachel stopped at the same coffee shop every morning at 7:30, always ordered the same drink, always sat at the corner table with her back to the wall. "She's careful," Maya said as they watched from across the street. Trained, cautious, but also tired. Look at her eyes. Victor studied Rachel through the coffee shop window. Mid-30s, Asian American, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She looked like she hadn't slept well in weeks. Her fingers drummed against her coffee cup in an irregular pattern that suggested anxiety more than impatience. "How do we approach her without spoking her?" "We don't." Maya checked her phone. "I approach her. You stay here and watch for tails. She sees you, she'll either run or pull her weapon, probably both." "What are you going to say?" "The truth, most of it anyway." Maya adjusted her jacket. "Give me 15 minutes. If I'm not out by then, or if you see federal vehicles, get out of here. The address for the next safe house is in your phone under Uncle Joe." "Maya, 15 minutes." She crossed the street before Victor could argue. He watched her enter the coffee shop, order something at the counter, then casually drift toward Rachel's table. From this distance, he couldn't hear the conversation, but he saw Rachel's body language shift the moment Maya sat down. Defensive, alert. Her right hand disappeared under the table, probably reaching for a weapon. Maya said something, slid a phone across the table. Rachel looked at it, then back at Maya. Her expression changed, confusion, maybe disbelief. She picked up the phone, scrolled through whatever Maya had shown her. Her face went pale. Victor's own phone buzzed. A message from Maya. "Stay put, this is taking longer." 10 more minutes passed. Rachel was talking now, her initial defensiveness replaced by something else. Anger, Victor thought, or maybe fear. Maya remained calm, her posture open and non-threatening. She pulled out another phone, showed Rachel something else. Rachel stood abruptly. For a moment, Victor thought she was going to walk out, maybe call for backup. Instead, she grabbed her coffee and her bag, said something sharp to Maya, and headed for the door. Maya followed. They emerged onto the street together. Rachel was moving fast, her jaw set. Maya caught up, said something that made Rachel stop. They stood there for 30 seconds, Rachel clearly wrestling with a decision. Finally, she nodded once, sharp and decisive. Maya waved Victor over. He crossed the street, every instinct screaming that this was a mistake. Rachel's hand was still hovering near her hip where her service weapon would be. Up close, she looked even more exhausted than he'd thought. Dark circles under her eyes, a tension in her shoulders that spoke of too many sleepless nights. "You're Victor Steele," Rachel said flatly. "I am." "You're wanted for murder." "I'm aware," Rachel looked at Maya. "You're insane, both of you. You know that, right?" "Probably," Maya agreed. "But you looked at the files. You know what Isabella and Cole are doing." "What I know is that you just showed me classified information that you shouldn't have, along with financial records that suggest serious criminal activity within my own task force." Rachel's voice was tight, controlled. "What I know is that even talking to you right now could end my career." "Your career is already over," Victor said quietly. "You just don't know it yet." Rachel's eyes snapped to him. "Excuse me?" "Isabella doesn't leave loose ends. You're smart, you pay attention, you ask questions. That makes you a liability." Victor kept his voice level. "How long until she decides you know too much? Another month? 2 weeks? Or is she already planning your exit strategy?" Something flickered across Rachel's face. Fear, quickly suppressed. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you've been working late alone for the past 3 weeks," Maya said. "I know you've been making copies of files that aren't part of your assigned cases. I know you opened a safety deposit box under a fake name last Tuesday. You're building an insurance file because you already suspect something is wrong." Rachel said nothing for a long moment. Traffic moved past them, normal people living normal lives. Finally, she said, "There's a park 2 blocks from here. We talk there, out in the open where I can see if anyone's following." They walked in silence. The park was small, mostly empty this early on a weekday. Rachel chose a bench with clear sightlines in all directions, positioned herself so she could watch the entrances. Professional habits died hard. "Talk," she said. Maya pulled out a tablet, handed it to Rachel. These are financial records from the last 6 years. Every operation Isabella and Cole have run, cross-referenced with official asset recovery reports. Notice the discrepancies? Rachel scrolled through the files, her expression growing darker with each page. These numbers don't match what was reported to Treasury. No, they don't, because 30 to 40% of recovered assets never made it into the official record. Isabella and Cole have been skimming since the beginning. Maya pulled up another file. Here's where the money went. Shell companies, offshore accounts, real estate purchases in Monaco and Geneva. They've stolen close to $2 billion. This is... Rachel stopped, her hand shaking slightly. If this is real, if this is accurate, they're not just corrupt. They're running a criminal enterprise using federal resources. Now you're catching up, Victor said. Rachel looked at him, and there was something raw in her expression. Did you kill Senator Rashford? No. Can you prove it? Not yet, but I can prove Isabella fabricated evidence against me, just like she's fabricated evidence against at least 4 other targets. Victor leaned forward. She seduced me, gained my trust, planted evidence, and then tried to have me killed or arrested during a raid she coordinated. Standard playbook, from what I understand. The senator's murder was real, Rachel said. I saw the crime scene photos. I'm not saying there wasn't a murder. I'm saying I didn't commit it. Victor held her gaze. Someone killed Rashford, but it wasn't me. And I'm betting Isabella knows exactly who did. Rachel was quiet, processing. Why come to me? Why not go to the press, or internal affairs, or... Because the press will crucify me before they listen, and internal affairs is compromised, Maya said. We need someone on the inside who can verify what we're saying, who can help us access secured information, and who has the credibility to make people listen when we go public. You want me to commit career suicide. We want you to do the right thing, Victor said. But yes, it'll probably destroy your career, at least temporarily. Rachel laughed, but there was no humor in it. At least you're honest about it. She stood, paced a few steps, came back. I've been with the Bureau for 12 years. It's all I have. No family to speak of, no life outside the job. And you're asking me to throw it all away on the word of a wanted criminal and an assassin I met 20 minutes ago. We're asking you to look at the evidence and make your own decision, Maya said. Rachel stared at the tablet in her hands. Victor watched her, saw the war playing out behind her eyes. She was a true believer, he realized. Someone who joined the FBI because she actually believed in justice, in doing the right thing. Those people were dangerous because they couldn't be bought or threatened, but they could be convinced. I noticed something was wrong 6 months ago, Rachel said finally. Small things at first. Evidence that appeared too conveniently. Witnesses who seemed coached. Asset recovery numbers that didn't quite add up. I started keeping my own records, documenting everything that felt off. She looked up at them. 3 weeks ago, I found communications between Isabella and Cole that referenced handling a previous target who'd started asking questions. The target died in prison 2 days later, officially ruled a suicide. Victor felt something cold settle in his stomach. They had him killed. I think so. I can't prove it, but Rachel's voice cracked slightly. I've been part of this operation for 3 years. If what you're showing me is real, then I've been helping them. I've been complicit in... You didn't know, Maya said firmly. You suspected, you investigated, and now you know. What matters is what you do next. Rachel sat back down heavily. What exactly are you planning? They told her. The gala, the public exposure, the compiled evidence that would prove Isabella and Cole's criminal operation. Rachel listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. When they finished, she said, That's the stupidest plan I've ever heard. You have a better one, Victor asked. No, which is the problem? Rachel rubbed her face. The gala is in 2 days. You'll need security credentials, access codes, a way to bypass the metal detectors, and federal screening. You'll need to get the evidence in front of the right people before Isabella's security team can shut you down. And you'll need insurance, something that guarantees the information goes public even if you're arrested or killed. Can you help with that? Maya asked. Rachel was quiet for a long time. Then she said, My career really is over, isn't it? Yes, Victor said, but you'll be able to sleep at night. I haven't slept well in months. Rachel pulled out her own phone. Okay, I'm in. But we do this my way, which means professionally and by the book as much as possible. I want everything documented, every piece of evidence verified and authenticated. When we bring this to light, it needs to be airtight. Maya smiled. Now you're talking. They spent the next hour in the park going over details. Rachel had access to the security protocols for the gala, knew which federal agents would be on duty, could identify the politicians and officials who needed to see the evidence firsthand. She was methodical, precise, asking questions that Victor hadn't even considered. What about Cole? Rachel asked. He's dangerous in a different way than Isabella. She's the mastermind, but he's the muscle. Ex-military, extensive combat training. If things go wrong, he won't hesitate to use lethal force. I'll handle Cole, Maya said quietly. Rachel looked at her. You're serious? Very. I don't want anyone dying if we can avoid it. Neither do I, Maya said. But Cole won't give us a choice. I've seen his file. He's killed at least 8 people during arrest operations. All rule-justified shootings. He likes the violence. If he feels threatened, he'll start shooting. Victor thought about Cole. His best security chief, the man he'd trusted more than almost anyone. How much of that relationship had been real, and how much had been Cole playing a role? He pushed the thought away. It didn't matter now. We need a backup plan, Rachel said. Something in case the gala approach fails. Insurance that ensures this information gets out no matter what. Already have it, Maya said. I've set up a dead man's switch. If I don't enter a specific code every 12 hours, all the evidence gets automatically sent to 50 different media outlets, law enforcement agencies, and congressional offices simultaneously. They take us down, the information goes public anyway. Rachel nodded slowly. That works. But we need more than just digital evidence. We need a witness who can testify to what Isabella and Cole have been doing. Someone with direct knowledge of the operation. That would be you, Victor pointed out. It would be. But my credibility is compromised the moment I align myself with you. We need someone else. Someone currently inside the operation who can corroborate everything we're saying. Rachel frowned, thinking. There's another agent, David Torres. He's been working with Isabella for 2 years, but I've noticed him pulling back recently, making excuses to avoid certain assignments. I think he's uncomfortable with how things are being run. Can we trust him? Maya asked. I don't know, but he's our best option. Rachel checked her watch. He's working the evidence room today. I can approach him, feel him out. If he's receptive, I'll bring him in. If not, we proceed without him. That's a risk, Victor said. This whole thing is a risk. Rachel stood. Give me 4 hours. I'll contact you either way. Don't go back to wherever you're staying. Isabella will have every property you've ever been associated with under surveillance. We're good, Maya assured her. Rachel looked at them both, and for the first time, Victor saw something other than professional detachment in her expression. Resolve, maybe. Or anger. I joined the FBI because I wanted to put bad people away. I wanted to make a difference, protect people who couldn't protect themselves. Instead, I've been part of an operation that's everything I stood against. She picked up her bag. So yeah, my career is over, but maybe I can still do some good before it ends. She walked away without looking back. Victor watched her go, then turned to Maya. Think she'll come through? Yes, she's angry, which is good. Angry people commit. Maya pulled out her phone. But we can't count on Torres. We need our own backup witness. Who did you have in mind? There's a lawyer in Oakland, Derek Shaw. He represented one of Isabella's previous targets, a cartel financier named Ruiz. Shaw always maintained his client was innocent, said the evidence was fabricated. Nobody believed him because, well, Ruiz was a cartel financier, but Shaw kept pushing, filed appeals, tried to get the case reopened. He might have information that supports our narrative. Victor nodded. We should talk to him. Already set up a meeting, 3 o'clock this afternoon. Maya started walking. Come on, we've got time to grab lunch and you need to eat. You look half dead. They found a small Thai restaurant off the beaten path, sat in a back corner where Victor could watch the door. The food was good, better than he'd expected. Maya ate efficiently, her attention split between her meal and her phone, constantly monitoring federal communications and news feeds. They're frustrated, she said between bites. The decoy landed in Mexico City, and the Mexican authorities arrested him. FBI is scrambling to figure out why you're not talking, why you're not demanding a lawyer. It'll take them a few hours to realize it's not you. And then? Then they'll be back to square one, and Isabella will be furious. Maya smiled slightly. Which works in our favor. Angry people make mistakes. Victor's phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. Torres is in. Meeting tonight, 8 p.m. We'll send location. He showed the message to Maya. She read it, nodded. Good. That's 3 of us on the inside. Maybe enough. Maybe isn't reassuring. Nothing about this situation is reassuring. Maya finished her food. But it's what we have. We work with it. Derek Shaw's office was in a converted warehouse in Oakland, the kind of place that had probably been something else before lawyers discovered cheap rent and urban renewal. The waiting room smelled like coffee and old paper. Shaw himself was younger than Victor expected, mid-40s with graying hair and the tired eyes of someone who'd fought too many losing battles. You're either very brave or very stupid, Shaw said, after Maya explained why they were there. I'm guessing stupid. Probably, Victor agreed, but we're here anyway. Shaw leaned back in his chair, studying them. You want me to testify that Isabella Monroe fabricated evidence against my client, that she's been running a corrupt operation for years, that everything I've been saying, everything I got laughed out of court for, was actually true. That's the idea, Maya said. And you have proof? Maya opened her laptop, turned it around. Shaw spent 20 minutes going through the files, his expression growing more intense with each page. When he finally looked up, his eyes were bright with something that looked like vindication. I knew it, he said quietly. I knew Ruiz was set up. The evidence was too perfect, too convenient. The witnesses appeared out of nowhere. The timeline didn't make sense. But nobody would listen because Ruiz was a bad guy, so obviously he deserved whatever happened to him. Shaw's hands were shaking slightly. They sent him to a federal prison. He died there 8 months later. Officially a suicide. Victor exchanged a look with Maya. That's the same story Rachel told us about another target. It's a pattern, Shaw said. Anyone who might expose what Isabella's doing ends up dead. Conveniently, quietly, and always ruled natural causes or suicide. He closed the laptop. How many people has she killed? We don't know, Maya said. We're still compiling the full list. Shaw stood, walked to the window. Outside, Oakland sprawled in the afternoon light. Ruiz wasn't a good person. He'd done terrible things, hurt a lot of people, but he deserved a fair trial. He deserved justice, not a frame job and a murder disguised as suicide. He turned back to them. What do you need from me? Your testimony, your files on the Ruiz case, anything that shows inconsistencies in Isabella's evidence. Victor paused. And your willingness to go public with all of it, knowing it might put a target on your back. The target's already there. I've been a thorn in their side for 2 years. I'm surprised I haven't had an accident yet. Shaw moved to a filing cabinet, started pulling folders. I've kept everything, every piece of evidence that didn't make sense, every witness statement that seemed coached, every coincidence that was too convenient. I've been waiting for someone to finally take this seriously. He dumped the folders on his desk. There were dozens of them, all meticulously organized. This is 2 years of work. 2 years of people telling me I'm crazy, that I'm just a defense attorney trying to get a guilty client off. 2 years of knowing something was wrong and not being able to prove it. Maya started photographing the documents. You can prove it now. Maybe. Shaw sat down again. But you need to understand something. If we do this, if we go public with this information, Isabella won't just come after you. She'll come after everyone involved. She'll discredit us, destroy our reputations. Maybe worse. Are you prepared for that? I don't have a choice, Victor said. She already destroyed everything I built. I've got nothing left to lose. Everyone has something to lose, Shaw said softly. But sometimes the cost of staying silent is higher than the cost of speaking up. He pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back. This is my personal cell. Call me when you're ready to move. I'll be there. They left Shaw's office as the sun was setting, the sky turning orange and purple over the Oakland hills. Maya was quiet, absorbed in her phone. Victor felt the weight of what they were building. Rachel, Torres, Shaw, All these people who were putting everything on the line because they believed in something bigger than survival. "You okay?" Maya asked, just thinking about how many lives we're about to ruin. "We're not ruining them. Isabella did that. We're just bringing it to light." She checked the time. "We need to meet Torres in 2 hours. You should change. Try to look less like a wanted fugitive." They went back to the mission safe house. Victor changed into different clothes, still casual, but cleaner. Maya set up a perimeter check, made sure they hadn't been followed. Everything was quiet, normal, too normal. "I don't like it," Maya said, staring at her laptop. "Federal chatter has gone quiet. That usually means they're planning something." "Maybe they're regrouping after the decoy failed." "Maybe." But she didn't sound convinced. At 7:30, they headed out to meet Torres. The location Rachel had sent was a parking garage in the financial district, empty at night after the office workers went home. Victor felt exposed as they walked up the concrete ramps, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Torres was waiting on the 3rd level, leaning against a gray sedan. He was younger than Victor expected, Latino, fit in the way federal agents were fit. He straightened when he saw them, his hand resting casually on his hip, near his weapon. "You're Steele," Torres said, "and you're taking a big risk being here." Rachel explained the situation. Torres's eyes flicked to Maya. "You're the one with the evidence?" Maya pulled out a tablet. "Want to see it?" Torres took the tablet, spent several minutes reviewing the files. His jaw tightened as he scrolled through the financial records, the communications between Isabella and Cole, the list of previous targets. When he finished, he handed it back without a word. "Well?" Victor asked. "I've suspected something was wrong for about 8 months, Torres said quietly. "Small things at first, the way Isabella and Cole would have private conversations that stopped when anyone else came near. The way certain pieces of evidence appeared at exactly the right time. The way witnesses seemed almost scripted." He looked at Victor. "I joined this task force because I believed in the mission. Taking down major criminals, recovering stolen assets, making a real difference. But lately, it's felt wrong." "So you'll help us?" Maya asked. Torres was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I have a son. He's 6 years old. His mother and I aren't together, but I see him every weekend. Last time, he told me he wants to be an FBI agent when he grows up. Like his dad." Torres's voice was rough. "What kind of example am I setting if I stay silent when I know something's wrong?" "A practical one," Victor said. "Nobody would blame you for protecting your career, your family. I'd blame me." Torres pulled out his phone. "What do you need?" They spent the next hour coordinating. Torres had access to the gala security protocols, could get them inside without triggering alarms. He knew which exits would be monitored, which officials would be in attendance, where the security weak points were. He was thorough, professional, exactly what they needed. "There's one problem," Torres said as they wrapped up. "Cole will be running security for the event. He'll have a team of agents loyal to him, all armed, all prepared to respond to threats. If you're planning to confront Isabella publicly, Cole will try to shut you down before you can speak." "Let him try," Maya said. Torres looked at her. "You do understand he's a trained killer, right? Ex-Delta Force, 2 tours in Afghanistan, decorated combat veteran. He's not some street thug you can take down easily." "Neither am I," Maya said flatly. An uncomfortable silence settled over them. Victor broke it. "We're not looking for a firefight. We just need enough time to get the evidence in front of the right people. After that, Isabella and Cole can be dealt with through legal channels." "You have a lot of faith in legal channels for someone who spent his career avoiding them," Torres observed. "I'm learning to appreciate them," Victor said. Torres smiled slightly. "Okay, I'm in. Rachel's coordinating the official side. She's going to brief Assistant Director Chen tomorrow morning, give him a heads up that something big is coming. That way, when you make your move at the gala, he'll be prepared to act." "Chen can be trusted?" Maya asked. "He's been trying to build a case against Isabella for over a year. He'll jump at the chance to take her down." Torres checked his watch. "I need to get back before anyone notices I'm gone. I'll text Rachel when everything's set on my end." He walked to his car, paused with his hand on the door. "For what it's worth, I hope you're right about this. I hope we can actually make a difference." "So do I," Victor said. Torres drove away, leaving them alone in the parking garage. Maya immediately went into security mode, checking corners and sightlines. We should move. Staying in one place too long is dangerous. They headed back toward the safe house, taking an indirect route through the city. Victor's mind was racing, running through scenarios, trying to anticipate what could go wrong. Everything depended on timing, on being able to get in front of the right audience before Isabella's people shut them down. One mistake, one miscalculation, and it was over. "You're thinking too hard," Maya said. "How can you tell?" "Your jaw is doing that thing where it tenses up. You look like you're chewing rocks." She turned down a side street. "We've got a plan. It's risky, but it's solid. Rachel, Torres, and Shaw are all committed. The evidence is documented and ready to go. We just need to execute. And if something goes wrong, then we improvise, like we've been doing since this started." Maya glanced at him. "You need to accept that we can't control everything. We do our best, we prepare as much as possible, and then we trust that it'll work out." "That's not very reassuring." "It's the best I've got." They reached the safe house without incident. Inside, Maya set up her equipment while Victor tried to eat something. His stomach was in knots, but he forced down a protein bar and some water. 2 days until the gala. 2 days to finalize every detail, to make sure nothing was overlooked. His phone buzzed. Message from Rachel. "Chen is on board, meeting him tomorrow at 10 a.m. to review evidence. He's ready to move when you are." Victor showed the message to Maya. She read it and nodded. "Good. That's everyone in position. Now we just need to survive until Friday night." "You make it sound easy." "I make it sound possible. There's a difference." Maya pulled up a schematic of the Fairmont Hotel on her laptop. "Let's go through the plan one more time. Every detail, every contingency. We can't afford mistakes." They worked through the night, refining their approach, identifying potential problems, building backup plans for the backup plans. By the time the sun came up, Victor's eyes burned with exhaustion, but he felt something close to confidence. They had a real shot at this. A small one, maybe, but real. "Get some sleep," Maya said, closing her laptop. "We've got a lot to do today, and you need to be sharp." Victor lay down on the mattress, but sleep didn't come easily. He kept seeing Isabella's face, kept hearing Cole's voice. Two people he'd trusted completely, who'd been planning to destroy him the entire time. The betrayal still stung, sharp and hot, but beneath the anger was something else. Determination. He'd built an empire from nothing once before. He could do it again. But this time he'd do it right. This time he'd build something that couldn't be taken away by lies and fabricated evidence. This time he'd build it on the truth. Victor woke to Maya shaking his shoulder harder than necessary. The apartment was dark except for the glow from her laptop screen casting sharp shadows across her face. "We have a problem," she said. He sat up, still wearing the clothes he'd fallen asleep in. "What kind of problem?" "Rachel just sent an encrypted message. Chen's meeting got moved up. Isabella knows someone's asking questions about her operations." Maya turned the laptop so he could see. "Chen's been placed on administrative leave pending an internal review, effective immediately." "How is that possible? We just brought him in yesterday." "Because Isabella has people everywhere. Someone tipped her off that Chen was looking into her finances." Maya's jaw was tight. "She's closing ranks, eliminating potential threats before we can make our move." Victor rubbed his face, trying to wake up fully. "What about Rachel and Torres?" "Still in place for now, but they're exposed. If Isabella's people start looking closely at who Chen's been talking to, they'll connect the dots." Maya pulled up another screen. "We need to move faster. The gala is tomorrow night, but we can't wait that long. Isabella's in damage control mode, which means she's unpredictable." "What are you suggesting?" "We go tonight. There's a fundraising dinner at the Fairmont. Smaller than the gala, but still high profile. Isabella will be there, probably Cole, too. We crash it, expose everything before she has time to cover her tracks." Victor stood, paced to the window. Outside, the city was waking up, people heading to jobs that didn't involve running from federal agents. "Tonight doesn't give us enough time to prepare. We don't have credentials. We don't have a solid entry plan." "We have me," Maya interrupted. "I can get us inside. It won't be clean, it won't be pretty, but I can do it." "And then what? We walk into a room full of federal agents and wealthy donors and start making accusations?" "We make them listen." Maya pulled up another file. "Shaw sent over the rest of his documentation this morning. Combined with what we already have, it's enough. We just need to get it in front of the right people. Victor turned from the window. Who's the right people if Chen's been sidelined? Deputy Director Patricia Marsh. She's Chen's boss, and she's not in Isabella's pocket. She'll be at the dinner tonight. She's giving the keynote speech. Maya showed him a photo. We get to her, show her the evidence, and she has the authority to shut Isabella down immediately. You're assuming Marsh will believe us. I'm assuming she'll look at the evidence with an open mind. After that, the facts speak for themselves. Maya closed the laptop. Look, I know this is rushed. I know it's dangerous, but Isabella's moving against us. If we wait until tomorrow, we might not get another chance. Victor thought about Chen, placed on administrative leave before he could even act. About Rachel and Torres, still inside, but how much longer? About Shaw, who'd been fighting this fight for 2 years and finally had allies. They were all exposed now, all vulnerable. Okay, he said. We go tonight. What do we need? Maya was already moving, pulling equipment from hidden compartments. Formal wear for both of us. The dinner's black tie, so you need a tuxedo, and I need an evening gown. Then we need to disable the security checkpoint long enough to get through, access the hotel's network to create fake credentials, and position ourselves near Marsh without alerting Isabella's security team. That's a lot to accomplish in... Victor checked his watch. 12 hours. Then we better get started. Maya tossed him a burner phone. Call this number. Tell them you need a rush tailoring job, measurements for a 6'2" male and a 5'7" female. They'll know what you mean. The next few hours passed in a blur of preparation. The tailor Maya sent him to operated out of a dry cleaning shop in Chinatown, didn't ask questions, and had a tuxedo ready in 3 hours that fit Victor better than anything he'd worn in years. Maya's evening gown appeared from somewhere Victor didn't ask about, elegant and understated in a way that would let her blend into the crowd. Back at the safe house, Maya worked on the technical aspects while Victor practiced his approach. What would he say to Deputy Director Marsh? How would he convince her to listen before Isabella's security grabbed him? Don't overthink it, Maya said without looking up from her laptop. Tell her the truth. You're Victor Steele. You were framed for murder by federal agents running a criminal enterprise, and you have proof. Simple, direct, impossible to ignore. And if she doesn't believe me? Then we move to Plan B. Maya pulled out a small device that looked like a modified phone. This is a wireless broadcaster. If Marsh won't listen, I trigger this and it sends all our evidence to every device in the hotel simultaneously. Phones, tablets, laptops, the hotel's display screens. Everyone at the dinner sees everything at once. Isabella can't suppress it if it's already public. That'll cause chaos. Good. Chaos works in our favor. Maya tested the device, nodded in satisfaction. But Plan A is better. Marsh has the authority to lock down the hotel, arrest Isabella and Cole on the spot. We want that if we can get it. Victor's phone buzzed. A message from Rachel. Be careful tonight. Isabella's on edge. She moved up her security detail and added extra agents to the dinner. Something spooked her. He showed the message to Maya. She frowned. She knows someone's coming for her. She just doesn't know who or when. Maybe we should reconsider this. And do what? Wait for her to identify everyone helping us and eliminate them one by one? Maya shook her head. No. We move tonight while we still have the advantage of surprise. At 6 o'clock, they started getting ready. Victor put on the tuxedo, adjusted the bow tie and the cracked mirror above the bathroom sink. He looked like someone else. Someone who belonged at high society fundraisers instead of running criminal operations. The transformation was unsettling. Maya emerged from the bedroom in her evening gown, her hair styled differently, makeup applied with precision. She looked elegant, refined, nothing like the deadly operative who'd saved his life 3 days ago. But her eyes were the same, sharp, calculating, missing nothing. You clean up well, Victor said. So do you. Almost respectable. She checked her small clutch purse, which Victor knew contained at least 2 weapons and the wireless broadcaster. Ready? No, but let's go anyway. They took a cab to a hotel 3 blocks from the Fairmont, left it there, and walked the rest of the way. The evening was cool, fog rolling in from the bay. Other guests were arriving, couples in formal wear, politicians with their security details, San Francisco's elite gathering for another expensive dinner. Stay close, Maya murmured as they approached the entrance. Follow my lead. Don't improvise. The security checkpoint was exactly what Victor expected. Metal detectors, federal agents checking IDs, additional screening for anyone not on the pre-approved list. Maya walked straight up to the checkpoint like she owned the place. Credentials, the agent said. Maya handed him a phone showing a QR code. The agent scanned it, frowned at his screen. This isn't coming up in the system. That's because it's a last-minute addition, Maya said smoothly. Deputy Director Marsh's office sent the authorization 2 hours ago. Check with her assistant if you need confirmation. The agent looked uncertain. Behind them, more guests were arriving, creating a backup. The agent's partner was getting impatient, waving people through to keep the line moving. Let me check with my supervisor, the first agent said. Of course. We'll wait right here. Maya smiled pleasantly. The agent stepped away, spoke into his radio. Victor felt sweat forming under his collar. This was the moment it could all fall apart. If the agent called Marsh's office, if they checked too carefully. You're clear, the agent said, coming back. Apologies for the delay. No problem at all. You're just doing your job. Maya took Victor's arm and they walked through the metal detector, which beeped. Belt buckle, Victor said, showing it to the second agent. The agent waved them through. Just like that, they were inside. How did you... Victor started. Tell you later, Maya said quietly. Right now, we need to locate Marsh and position ourselves. The ballroom was impressive, chandeliers glittering overhead, round tables set for 8, a stage at the far end where speakers would address the crowd. Victor scanned the room, looking for faces he recognized. He spotted Isabella almost immediately. She was near the bar, wearing a red dress that probably cost more than most people's cars, laughing at something a congressman was saying. Cole stood nearby, his eyes constantly moving, assessing threats. Don't look at them, Maya said. Focus on Marsh. They found the deputy director near the stage, reviewing notes with an aide. She was in her 50s, gray hair cut short, wearing a no-nonsense black suit instead of a gown. She looked like someone who'd spent her career earning respect rather than demanding it. How do we approach her? Victor asked. We wait until she's alone. Right now, she's too exposed. Maya guided him toward their assigned table, which she'd somehow managed to get near the stage. Dinner first, speeches second. There'll be a break between the meal and the program. That's when we make our move. They sat down. The other guests at their table were wealthy donors, business people with expensive watches and careful smiles. Victor made small talk, played the role of just another attendee. Maya was better at it, charming their table mates with stories about venture capital and tech investments. Nobody looked at them twice. Across the room, Isabella was working the crowd, shaking hands, posing for photos. She was good at this, Victor realized. The performance was flawless. No one watching her would suspect she was anything other than a dedicated federal agent celebrating a successful operation. The meal was served. Victor picked at his food, his stomach too tight to eat properly. Maya managed a few bites, but her attention was elsewhere, tracking Isabella's movements, watching Cole's security patterns, timing everything. She's heading to the restroom, Maya murmured. Cole's staying behind. This might be our only chance to get close without him noticing. We're going after Isabella? No, but we need to know what she's doing. Maya stood, excused herself from the table. Yet Victor watched her cross the ballroom with the same easy confidence she'd shown at the security checkpoint. He lost sight of her in the crowd. 5 minutes passed. 10. Victor's hands were sweating. Around him, people laughed and talked, completely unaware of the drama unfolding in their midst. Maya returned, her expression tight. We have a bigger problem. What? Isabella just took a call in the hallway. I couldn't hear all of it, but I caught enough. She knows someone's here. She told whoever she was talking to that she felt exposed, that something was wrong. Maya sat down. She's about to run. Run where? I don't know, but if she leaves before we expose her, we lose everything. Maya checked her phone. Rachel just confirmed it. Isabella's security team is preparing to evacuate her. They're citing a credible threat. Victor looked across the room. Isabella had returned, was now speaking urgently with Cole. They were moving toward a side exit, their body language tense. We can't let her leave, Victor said. I know. Maya pulled out the wireless broadcaster. Plan B, we go public right now, force her to stay and deal with the consequences. Do it. Maya triggered the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then phones started buzzing across the ballroom, hundreds of them, all at once. People pulled out their devices, looked at their screens. Confusion spread like a wave. Victor's own borrowed phone showed what everyone else was seeing. Financial records, communications between Isabella and Cole, evidence of fabricated cases and stolen assets. The entire conspiracy, laid out in irrefutable detail. Someone screamed. Then everyone was talking at once, voices rising in shock and confusion. On the stage, the event coordinator was trying to regain control, but nobody was listening. They were all staring at their phones, at the evidence that had just appeared out of nowhere. Isabella stood frozen near the exit, her face pale. She looked around the room, searching for the source of the leak. Her eyes found Victor across the crowd. Their gazes locked. For a moment, everything else faded away. Just the two of them, predator and prey. Except Victor wasn't sure anymore who was which. Isabella's expression shifted from shock to rage to something colder. Calculation. Cole was already moving, pushing through the crowd toward Victor. Maya stepped in front of Victor, her hand in her clutch purse. "Don't," she said quietly. Cole stopped 3 feet away. "You just made a very big mistake." "Did I?" "Because from where I'm standing, everyone in this room now knows exactly what you and Isabella have been doing." Maya's voice was calm, almost pleasant. "You're done, Cole. It's over." "Nothing's over until I say it is." Cole's hand moved toward his weapon. Federal agents were swarming into the room now, responding to the chaos. Deputy Director Marsh stood on the stage, shouting orders, trying to establish control. In the confusion, Isabella was moving again, heading for the exit with 2 of her security team. "She's running," Victor said. Maya glanced back, saw Isabella disappearing through the door. "Go, stop her. I'll handle Cole." "Maya, go!" Victor ran. Behind him, he heard shouting, the sound of a struggle. He pushed through this panicked crowd, ignoring the hands that grabbed at him, the voices asking what was happening. All that mattered was reaching Isabella before she escaped. He burst through the exit door into a service corridor. Isabella was ahead, moving fast in her heels, her security team flanking her. They reached an elevator, one of them hitting the call button repeatedly. "Isabella!" Victor shouted. She spun around. For a second, he saw fear in her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by cold fury. "You should have died in that penthouse," she said. "Probably, but I didn't." Victor moved closer. The security agents reached for their weapons, but Isabella waved them off. "Let him talk. I want to hear this." She leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "You think you've won? You think exposing me changes anything?" "It changes everything. Everyone knows now. Your bosses, the politicians you've been working with, the media. You can't cover this up." "Can't I?" Isabella laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're Victor Steele, wanted for murder, a known criminal with every reason to fabricate evidence against the agents pursuing him. Who do you think they'll believe?" "The evidence speaks for itself. Evidence can be discredited, witnesses can be impeached. I've been doing this for 6 years, Victor. I know every trick, every loophole, every way to make a case fall apart." The elevator dinged, the doors opened. "You might slow me down, but you won't stop me. I'm too good at this." "So was I," Victor said. "And look where that got me." Isabella stepped into the elevator. Her security team followed. "Goodbye, Victor. I'd say it's been fun, but we both know that's a lie." The doors started to close. Victor lunged forward, jammed his hand between them. They bounced open again. "I'm not letting you run," he said. One of the security agents grabbed Victor, slammed him against the wall. The impact drove the air from his lungs. He struggled, but the agent was bigger, stronger, trained for this. "Let him go," Isabella said tiredly. "He's not worth the trouble." The agent hesitated, then released Victor. He stumbled back, gasping. "You destroyed my life," Victor said. "Everything I built, everyone I trusted. You took it all." "I did my job." Isabella's face was expressionless. "You were a criminal. You deserved what happened. And what about the others? The people you framed who weren't criminals? The witnesses you fabricated? The evidence you planted? Did they deserve it too?" Something flickered in Isabella's eyes. Doubt, maybe, or regret. It was gone in an instant. The world isn't clean, Victor. Justice isn't clean. Sometimes you have to do terrible things to accomplish good ones. She reached for the elevator button. I made my choices. I can live with them. Can you? Victor straightened up. Because I know about Ruiz. I know about the others who died in prison. I know you had them killed to protect your operation. You can't prove that. Maybe not. But I can raise enough questions that people will start looking. And once they start looking, Isabella, they're going to find things. Things you thought you'd buried. Things you thought no one would ever discover. Victor held her gaze. You're right that I might not stop you, but I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Isabella stared at him. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then she pressed the button and the doors closed. Victor slumped against the wall, adrenaline draining away. He'd failed. Isabella was gone, probably had an escape plan ready, maybe a private plane waiting. All the evidence in the world didn't matter if she disappeared before anyone could arrest her. He heard footsteps behind him, turned to find Maya, her dress torn at the shoulder, blood on her knuckles. Cole? He asked. Unconscious. Federal agents have him in custody. She looked at the closed elevator doors. Isabella? Gone. I tried to stop her, but she's not gone, Maya said. She pulled out her phone, showed him a tracking app. A red dot was moving through the building, heading for the parking garage. I put a tracker on her while you were chasing her. Old habit. Victor stared at the screen. Where's she going? Somewhere she feels safe, probably. A backup location, a place she can regroup and plan her next move. Maya started walking, Victor following. We need to move fast. Once she realizes she's being tracked, she'll ditch whatever I tagged. They took the stairs, moving quickly but not running. Can't draw attention, not yet. Down 4 flights to the parking level, out into the concrete maze of parked cars and support columns. The red dot on Maya's phone showed Isabella 2 levels below them. They found another stairwell, descended. Victor's dress shoes echoed on the concrete. Somewhere nearby, a car engine started. There, Maya said. A black SUV pulled out of a parking spot, Isabella visible through the driver's window. She was alone now, her security team left behind in the chaos upstairs. The SUV accelerated toward the exit ramp. Maya ran to a parked motorcycle, pulled something from her clutch, and held it near the ignition. The bike roared to life. How did you... No time. Get on. Victor climbed on behind her. Maya gunned the engine and they shot forward, chasing the SUV as it spiraled down the ramp toward the street exit. The bike was fast, responsive, and Maya drove it like she'd been riding her whole life. Maybe she had. They burst onto the street seconds behind the SUV. Isabella took a hard right, weaving through traffic. Maya followed, the bike leaning into turns that made Victor's stomach drop. Around them, the city blurred past, lights and colors streaking together. Where's she going? Victor shouted over the engine noise. South, toward the airport, maybe? Maya accelerated, bringing them alongside the SUV. Through the window, Victor could see Isabella's face, determined and focused. She saw them, her eyes widening. The SUV swerved, trying to force them off the road. Maya braked hard, dropped back. The SUV clipped a parked car, kept going. Hold on, Maya said. She gunned the engine again, shot through a gap between 2 cars, came up on the SUV's passenger side. Victor could reach out and touch it. He saw Isabella looking at them, her face twisted with fury. The SUV swerved again, this time more violently. Maya tried to avoid it, but there wasn't enough room. The SUV's fender caught the bike's rear wheel. Metal screamed. The bike wobbled, started to go down. Maya fought for control, somehow kept them upright, but they'd lost speed, the SUV pulling ahead. Isabella took another turn, tires squealing. We're losing her, Victor said. No, we're not. Maya's jaw was set, her knuckles white on the handlebars. She pushed the bike harder, engine screaming in protest. They came around the corner and suddenly the SUV was right there, stopped at a red light with nowhere to go. Traffic blocked every direction. Isabella sat trapped, her hands gripping the steering wheel. Maya pulled the bike alongside the driver's window. For a moment, the 2 women stared at each other through the glass. Then the light changed, and Isabella hit the gas, trying to bull her way through the intersection. A delivery truck came out of nowhere. Victor saw it a split second before impact, saw Isabella's face as she realized too late, saw her hands yank the wheel. The SUV hit the truck's side panel with a sound like thunder. The crash echoed through the intersection like a gunshot. Metal crumpled, glass shattered, and the SUV spun sideways before slamming into a light post with another sickening crunch. Steam hissed from the crushed hood. The delivery truck driver stumbled out of his cab, shouting into a phone. Maya killed the motorcycle engine. The sudden silence was deafening except for car alarms and distant sirens. Victor climbed off, his legs shaking, and approached the wrecked SUV. The driver's side was crushed inward, the door jammed shut. Through the spider-webbed window, he could see Isabella slumped against the airbag, blood running down her face from a cut above her eye. "Is she alive?" Maya asked, coming up beside him. Isabella's eyes flickered open. She turned her head slowly, focusing on Victor through the broken glass. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "We need to get her out before this thing catches fire," Victor said. "No." Maya's voice was flat. "We wait for emergency services. If we touch her, we contaminate the scene. She's a federal agent who just fled the scene of her own exposure. Let the system handle this." Victor looked at Maya, saw something hard and unforgiving in her expression. She could be seriously hurt. She's killed people, ruined lives, stole billions. A few minutes in a wrecked car isn't going to kill her, and if it does, Maya shrugged, maybe that's justice. That's not justice, that's revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing. But Maya pulled out her phone anyway, called 911, reported the accident with clinical precision. When she finished, she looked at Victor. Happy? He wasn't, but he didn't argue. Around them, people were gathering, pointing, taking photos with their phones. Someone would recognize Isabella eventually, connect her to the fundraising dinner, to the evidence that had just gone viral. The story was already writing itself. Sirens grew louder. Police cars arrived first, then an ambulance. EMTs swarmed the SUV, pried open the door, carefully extracted Isabella from the wreckage. She was conscious, talking to them, but Victor couldn't hear what she was saying. They loaded her onto a stretcher, one of them applying pressure to the cut on her head. A police officer approached Victor and Maya. "Either of you see what happened?" "She ran a red light," Maya said. "Didn't even slow down, just went straight through." The officer wrote this down. "You were following her?" "No, we were just stopped at the same intersection." Maya's tone was perfectly innocent. Wrong place, wrong time. The officer looked skeptical but didn't push it. He took their fake names, contact information that would lead nowhere, and moved on to other witnesses. More police cars were arriving now, along with federal vehicles. Someone had made the connection. "We should leave," Maya said quietly, "before someone recognizes you." They walked away from the scene, leaving the motorcycle where Maya had parked it. Just another piece of the chaos. 2 blocks away, Maya flagged down a cab. They climbed in, Victor giving an address 3 blocks from their actual destination. "That was messy," Victor said once they were moving. "Yeah, but it worked." Maya stared out the window. "Isabella's in custody, the evidence is public, and Cole's already being processed. By tomorrow morning, every news outlet in the country will be running the story." "What about us?" "We disappear, at least for a while." Maya pulled out her phone, started typing. "I'm reaching out to Rachel and Torres, making sure they're safe. Then we need to get out of the city before anyone connects the dots." Victor's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "This is Deputy Director Marsh. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., location TBD. Come alone or bring counsel. This is not a trap." He showed it to Maya. She read it, nodded. "That's good. She wants to hear your side. Should I trust her? Do you have a choice?" Maya sent her own message, then pocketed her phone. "Look, Marsh isn't corrupt. She's been trying to take down Isabella for over a year. With the evidence now public, she has the ammunition she needs. But she'll want your cooperation, your testimony. You'll have to decide if you're willing to give it." The cab dropped them off. They walked the rest of the way to the safe house in silence. Inside, Maya immediately started packing their equipment, erasing their presence. Victor sat down heavily, the adrenaline finally draining away, leaving him hollow and exhausted. "What happens now?" he asked. Maya paused in her packing. "Now? Now the bureaucracy takes over. There'll be investigations, hearings, trials. Isabella and Cole will hire expensive lawyers. The politicians they worked with will distance themselves. Some people will go to prison, others will cut deals. It'll take years to sort out. And me? That depends on Marsh, and on whether you're willing to testify against Isabella. Maya sat down across from him. You're still wanted for Rashford's murder. That charge isn't going away just because Isabella's operation got exposed. You'll need to prove you didn't do it. How do I prove I didn't kill someone when I don't even know who did? By finding out who actually killed him, and why. Maya pulled out her laptop. I've been looking into Rashford's death. The timing is suspicious. He died 3 days before you were framed, which means someone had to know Isabella was planning to target you. Someone who could benefit from both Rashford's death and your downfall. Victor felt something cold in his chest. Cole. Maybe, or maybe someone else entirely. Maya pulled up files. Rashford was on the Senate Oversight Committee investigating federal asset forfeiture programs. Guess what he was looking into? Isabella's operations. Not specifically, but he was asking the right questions. Questions that would have eventually led to her. Maya turned the laptop so Victor could see. 3 weeks before his death, Rashford requested financial records from the Justice Department. Records that would have shown the discrepancies in Isabella's asset recovery reports. So someone killed him to protect the operation. That's my theory. And if we can prove it, we can clear your name. Maya closed the laptop. But first, you need to survive your meeting with Marsh tomorrow. That's the priority. They spent the rest of the night preparing. Maya coached him on what to say, what to omit, how to frame his cooperation in a way that protected him while still giving Marsh what she needed. By the time the sun came up, Victor felt as ready as he'd ever be. Get some sleep, Maya said. You look terrible. I feel terrible. Good. That means you're still human. She pulled out a blanket, tossed it to him. I'll take first watch. We'll leave for the meeting at 9. Victor lay down, but sleep wouldn't come. He kept thinking about Isabella in that wrecked SUV, about Cole being processed into federal custody, about the empire he'd built that no longer existed. 4 days ago, he'd been one of the most powerful men in San Francisco. Now he was a fugitive negotiating with federal agents for a chance to prove his innocence. His phone buzzed. Another message, this time from Rachel. Marsh is legitimate. She wants to help, but be careful what you promise. The system will chew you up if you let it. He sent back a quick thanks, then finally drifted into uneasy sleep. Morning came too fast. Maya woke him at 8:30 with coffee and a clean shirt. They took separate routes to the meeting location, a small office building in the financial district that the FBI sometimes used for off-the-books meetings. Victor arrived first, waited in the lobby until Maya texted that the perimeter was clear. Deputy Director Marsh was already there, along with Rachel and another agent Victor didn't recognize. The room was small, windowless, with a table and 6 chairs. Recording equipment sat in the corner, unplugged. Mr. Steele, Marsh said, standing, thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? You always have a choice. Today you chose to come here instead of running. That counts for something. Marsh gestured to a chair. Please sit. This is Agent Williams from Internal Affairs. He'll be observing but not participating. Victor sat. Rachel gave him a small nod of encouragement. Williams watched him with the dead-eyed stare of someone who'd seen too many criminals claim innocence. Let's be clear about something, Marsh said. You're still wanted for Senator Rashford's murder. That hasn't changed. What has changed is my understanding of how evidence in that case was gathered and presented. Agent Monroe's operation has been compromised, which means everything she touched is now suspect. Including the evidence against me, Victor said. Potentially, yes. But that doesn't make you innocent. It makes you someone who might have been framed. Marsh leaned forward. I need you to walk me through everything, from the beginning. How you met Isabella Monroe, what your relationship was, what happened the night of Senator Rashford's death. Victor glanced at Rachel. She nodded slightly. He took a breath and started talking. He told them about meeting Isabella at a charity event 18 months ago, how she'd approached him, how the relationship had developed. He told them about the engagement, about trusting her with details of his operations, about coming home early and finding her with Cole planting evidence. He told them about Maya, about the escape, about the evidence they'd compiled. Marsh listened without interrupting, her expression neutral. Williams took notes, his pen scratching across paper. Rachel watched Victor carefully, probably assessing whether he was telling the truth. When he finished, Marsh said, "And you're claiming you never met Senator Rashford? Never had any contact with him?" "I knew who he was, everyone did, but I never met him, never spoke to him, and definitely never killed him." "Then who did?" "I don't know. But I know it had to be someone protecting Isabella's operation, someone who knew Rashford was asking questions that would eventually expose what she was doing." Marsh exchanged a look with Williams. "We've been investigating that angle. Senator Rashford's security detail reported a maintenance worker in his building the day before his death, someone who wasn't supposed to be there. We're trying to track down surveillance footage." "Cole was ex-military," Victor said. "He'd know how to bypass security, how to make a kill look like something else. And he had access to my apartment, to my things. He could have planted whatever evidence you found at Rashford's scene." "That's speculation," Williams said, speaking for the first time. "It's a theory based on evidence," Victor corrected. "Everything Isabella and Cole did followed a pattern. Identify the target, get close, manufacture evidence, eliminate the target. I was supposed to be eliminated during that federal raid. When that didn't work, they fell back to Plan B. Frame me for Rashford's murder and let the system do their work for them." Marsh tapped her pen against the table. "Let's say you're right. Let's say Cole killed Rashford to protect Isabella's operation, then framed you for it. How do we prove that?" "You look at the evidence she manufactured against me. You find the inconsistencies, the things that don't add up. You look at Cole's movements the day Rashford died. You talk to the other targets Isabella went after, see if any of them reported similar patterns." Victor leaned forward. "And you look at the money. $2 billion stolen over 6 years doesn't disappear. It leaves traces. You find those traces. You find proof of the conspiracy." "We're already doing all of that," Marsh said. "What I need from you is cooperation. Testimony about your relationship with Isabella, about what you witnessed, about the evidence you and your associate compiled. In exchange, I can offer you immunity from prosecution on the Rashford murder charge pending the outcome of our investigation." "Pending," Victor repeated. "That's a pretty big qualifier." "It's the best I can do right now. If our investigation proves you didn't kill Rashford, the charges will be dropped permanently. If it doesn't," Marsh shrugged, "then you'll face trial like anyone else." Victor thought about it. Immunity pending investigation. It wasn't a full pardon, wasn't even close to a guarantee, but it was more than he'd had an hour ago. "What about my other activities?" he asked. "The criminal enterprise I ran for 20 years? That's a separate matter. Right now, my priority is dismantling Isabella's operation and clearing up the cases she contaminated. Your criminal activities are someone else's problem." Marsh's expression softened slightly. "But off the record? If you cooperate fully, if you help us build an airtight case against Isabella and Cole, I imagine the prosecutors handling your other charges might be inclined to be, flexible." Rachel spoke up for the first time. "What Deputy Director Marsh is saying is that you have a chance here. A real one. Don't waste it." Victor looked at each of them in turn. Marsh, professional and calculating. Williams, suspicious but willing to listen. Rachel, who'd risked everything to help expose the truth. They were offering him a way out, or at least a path that might lead to one. "Okay," he said. "I'll cooperate. Full testimony, complete disclosure, whatever you need." "Good." Marsh pulled out a document. "This is an agreement outlining the terms. Read it carefully. If you agree, sign it. Then we'll begin the formal deposition." Victor read through the agreement. The legal language was dense, but the meaning was clear. He'd testify truthfully about everything he knew regarding Isabella's operation, and in exchange, the murder charge would be suspended pending the investigation's outcome. If he lied or withheld information, the deal was void and he'd face additional charges for obstruction. He signed it. The deposition took 6 hours. Marsh and Williams asked questions about everything: dates, times, conversations, financial transactions. They asked about his criminal operations, about his relationship with Isabella, about the night he discovered her betrayal. They asked about Maya, about the evidence they'd compiled, about how they'd planned the exposure at the fundraising dinner. Victor answered everything as honestly as he could, Some answers implicated him in crimes he'd committed over the years. Others revealed details about his organization that would help the FBI dismantle what remained of it. But he'd made his choice. He was done running. When they finally finished, it was late afternoon. Marsh turned off the recording equipment, stretched. "Thank you, Mr. Steele. This has been very productive." "What happens now?" "Now we verify everything you've told us. We'll cross-reference your testimony with the evidence you provided, interview other witnesses, build our case. It'll take time, probably several months. In the meantime, you'll need to stay available. Don't leave the state without permission." "Am I under arrest?" "No. Consider yourself released on your own recognizance, under the condition that you check in with Agent Park weekly and respond immediately if we need additional testimony." Marsh stood. "Go get some rest. You look exhausted." Victor left the building with Rachel. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and purple. Normal people were heading home from work, thinking about dinner, about their evenings. Simple lives uncomplicated by federal investigations and criminal conspiracies. "You did good in there," Rachel said. "Did I? Feels like I just confessed to 20 years of crimes." "You told the truth. That's more than most people in your position would do." Rachel pulled out her car keys. "Need a ride somewhere?" "I'm good. My associate is nearby." "The woman from the park?" "Maya." Rachel's expression was unreadable. "She's dangerous." "I know. Do you? Because people like her don't just stop being what they are. She might have helped you, might even care about you in her own way, but she's still a killer. That doesn't change." Victor thought about Maya stopping him from killing Isabella and Cole that first night, about her choosing not to complete her assassination contract, about everything she'd risked to help him fight back. "People can change," he said. "Some people. Maybe." Rachel unlocked her car. "Just be careful. You've been given a second chance. Don't throw it away." She drove off, leaving Victor alone on the sidewalk. His phone buzzed. A message from Maya. "How did it go?" He typed back, "Better than expected. Where are you?" "Coffee shop 2 blocks east. Take your time." Victor walked, letting the evening air clear his head. His whole body ached from tension and exhaustion. 4 days ago, he'd been planning his wedding to a woman who was planning to destroy him. Now he was cooperating with federal agents to bring down the same woman, hoping it would be enough to clear his name. He found Maya in the back of the coffee shop, laptop open, watching surveillance footage from what looked like the fundraising dinner. She looked up when he approached. "Well?" she asked. "I signed an immunity agreement. Gave them everything. They'll investigate, verify, and if it all checks out, the murder charge gets dropped." "That's good. Better than I expected." Maya closed the laptop. "What about Isabella?" "She's in federal custody. They're building a case against her and Cole based on the evidence we provided, plus their own investigation. Marsh thinks it's solid." Maya nodded slowly. "So we won." "Did we?" "My empire is gone. I'm cooperating with federal agents, and I still might end up in prison if Marsh's investigation doesn't go the way we hope." "But you're alive. Isabella and Cole are in custody. The truth is public. That's more than we had 4 days ago." Maya stood. "Come on, let's get out of here. I'm sick of safe houses and hiding." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere we can actually sleep. I know a place in Sausalito. Quiet, off the grid, nice view of the bay. We can lay low there while Marsh does her investigation." They took a ferry across the bay as the sun finished setting. Sausalito was quieter than San Francisco, smaller, less frantic. The place Maya had arranged was a small cottage overlooking the water, furnished simply but comfortably. It felt like somewhere a person could actually live instead of just survive. Maya ordered food delivery while Victor explored the cottage. 2 bedrooms, a living room with a fireplace, a kitchen that looked actually functional. It was the most normal place he'd been in days. "This is nice," he said when Maya found him on the back deck watching the lights of San Francisco across the bay. "It's temporary. But yeah, it's nice." She handed him a beer. "To surviving." They touched bottles, drank. The beer was cold and good, probably the best thing Victor had tasted in days. "What happens next?" he asked. "After the investigation, after all this settles." Maya was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. I've spent my whole adult life being one thing. First a killer for hire, then someone trying to stop being that. I don't know what comes after. You could disappear. Take some of that money we secured and start over somewhere else. New name, new life, no one looking for you. I could. But running away doesn't change what I am, what I've done. Maya stared at her beer. I killed people, Victor. A lot of people. Some of them probably deserved it. Most of them didn't. I can't just pretend that didn't happen because I helped you take down a corrupt federal agent. So what are you going to do? I don't know yet. Maybe I'll turn myself in, face whatever consequences there are. Maybe I'll try to make amends somehow, though I have no idea how you make amends for murder. She looked at him. What about you? Assuming Marsh clears you, assuming you don't go to prison, what then? Victor thought about his empire, about the 20 years he'd spent building something that ultimately meant nothing. About the people he'd hurt, the lives he'd damaged, the choices he'd made that had led him here. I don't know either, he admitted. I'm 46 years old and everything I thought defined me is gone. I don't know who I am without it. Maybe that's the point. Maybe we both get to figure out who we are instead of who we've been. The food arrived. They ate on the deck, watching the lights reflect off the water, not talking much. It was peaceful in a way Victor hadn't experienced in years. No one trying to kill him, no federal agents hunting him, no empire to manage. Just two people eating takeout and watching the world continue without them. Later, Maya set up her laptop and showed him the news coverage of Isabella's arrest. It was everywhere. Every major outlet running stories about the corrupt federal operation, the billions in stolen assets, the fabricated evidence. Isabella's photo was plastered across every screen, her career destroyed in spectacular fashion. Cole's lawyer is already talking about a deal, Maya said, reading from a news site, offering to testify against Isabella in exchange for reduced charges. Will they take it? Probably. They want Isabella more than they want him. He was just following orders. At least that's what his lawyer will argue. Maya scrolled through more articles. Shaw's been giving interviews, talking about his client Ruiz and the fabricated evidence. Rachel and Torres are being hailed as heroes for exposing corruption from within. Everyone's getting their moment. Except us. We're still wanted fugitives, technically. Our moment will come later, assuming we survive long enough to see it. But Maya was smiling slightly as she said it. Victor's phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Steele, this is Derek Shaw. I wanted to give you an update. The FBI just contacted me. They're reopening the Ruiz case based on the evidence of Isabella's operation. They're going to officially declare his conviction unsound and clear his name posthumously. That's good news? It is. It doesn't bring him back, doesn't undo what happened to him, but it's something. Shaw paused. I also wanted to thank you for having the courage to fight back. A lot of people in your position would have just run. I tried running. It didn't work out. Shaw laughed. Still, you did the right thing. That counts for something. He hung up. Victor relayed the conversation to Maya. She nodded, closed her laptop. People are going to start getting justice. That's what we wanted, right? Is it enough? I don't know, but it's what we have. The next few weeks passed in a strange kind of limbo. Victor checked in with Rachel weekly as required, gave additional testimony when Marsh requested it, and slowly watched as the investigation progressed. Isabella remained in custody, denied bail as a flight risk. Cole had indeed cut a deal, testifying about the operations he and Isabella had run, the targets they'd framed, the murders they'd orchestrated. The maintenance worker who'd been spotted at Rashford's building was identified as a contractor Cole had used before. Surveillance footage showed him entering Rashford's floor the night before the murder. Financial records connected him to payments from one of Isabella's shell companies. The case against Cole for Rashford's murder was building, and with it, the case for Victor's innocence. 2 months after the fundraising dinner, Marsh called Victor to her office. Rachel was there, along with a prosecutor Victor hadn't met before. Mr. Steele, Marsh said, based on our investigation, we've concluded that the evidence against you in Senator Rashford's murder was fabricated by Agent Monroe and Cole Davis. The actual killing was carried out by a contractor hired by Davis, who has since confessed. We're dropping all charges against you related to Senator Rashford's death. Victor felt something release in his chest. Just like that? Just like that. You're free to go. Marsh slid a document across the table. This is the official dismissal. You'll want to keep a copy for your records. The prosecutor cleared his throat. However, there are still matters related to your criminal enterprise that need to be addressed. We'll be in contact about those. I understand. But, the prosecutor continued, given your cooperation in this matter and the assistance you provided in exposing a significant corruption case, we're prepared to offer a very favorable plea agreement, community service, restitution where applicable, probation. No prison time. Victor looked at Rachel. She was smiling. Take the deal, she said quietly. He took the deal. Walking out of the federal building that afternoon, Victor felt like he was breathing properly for the first time in months. The murder charge was gone. The remaining charges were manageable. He wasn't going to prison. Maya was waiting across the street, leaning against a car she'd acquired from somewhere. Well? Free. Clear on the murder charge, plea deal on the rest. No prison time. See? I told you it would work out. But her eyes were sad. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I don't know. Maya pushed off from the car. I've been thinking about what I said before. About turning myself in, facing consequences. I talked to a lawyer. He thinks if I cooperate, if I provide information about the people who hired me over the years, I might be able to avoid a life sentence. Might? No guarantees, but it's better than running for the rest of my life. She looked at him. I wanted to tell you before I did it, in case it doesn't go well. Victor felt something tighten in his chest. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. You said it yourself. People can change. But change requires accountability. I can't change who I was without acknowledging what I did. Maya smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Besides, you did it. You cooperated, you told the truth, and you came out the other side. Maybe I can too. When? Tomorrow morning. My lawyer is meeting me at the federal building at 9. She handed him the car keys. The cottage in Sausalito is paid up for 6 months. All the documentation is in the glove box. It's yours if you want it. Maya, don't. Don't make this harder than it already is. She stepped closer, put her hand on his arm. You're going to be okay, Victor. You're going to figure out who you are without the empire, without the criminal life. You're going to build something better. What if I don't want to do it alone? You won't be alone. You'll have Rachel, Torres, Shaw, people who actually care about justice. Real allies, not just people who worked for you because you paid them. Maya stepped back. I need to go. I have a lot to prepare before tomorrow. She walked away. Victor watched her go, wanted to call after her, but didn't. She was right. She needed to do this, needed to face what she'd done. He understood that better than anyone. That night, alone in the Sausalito cottage, Victor couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Maya, about what she was about to do, about whether the system would give her the same chance it had given him. Probably not. He'd been framed. She'd actually committed the murders she was going to confess to. His phone rang at 2 a.m. Rachel. Victor, I just got a call from Deputy Director Marsh. Maya Reed turned herself in 4 hours ago. She's in federal custody. 4 hours? But she said tomorrow morning. She lied. Probably thought you'd try to talk her out of it. Rachel's voice was gentle. She gave a full confession, named her employers, detailed her operations, provided evidence for dozens of unsolved cases. Marsh says it's the most comprehensive voluntary disclosure she's ever seen. Is she okay? Physically, yes. Legally, it's complicated. She's facing multiple murder charges, but her cooperation will count for something. Marsh is already talking to prosecutors about a deal. Rachel paused. She asked me to tell you something. She said you helped her remember who she wanted to be. She wanted to thank you for that. Victor closed his eyes. Thanks for calling, Rachel. Get some sleep. We'll figure out what comes next in the morning. Morning came eventually. Victor stood on the deck watching the sun rise over San Francisco, trying to figure out what he felt. Maya was in custody. Isabella and Cole were awaiting trial. His name was clear, his future uncertain, but no longer hopeless. He spent the day making calls, reaching out to people he'd lost touch with over the years. His mother's care facility, where he learned she'd passed away 2 months ago while he was on the run. He'd missed the funeral, missed the chance to say goodbye. That hurt more than anything else. He called the doorman from his old building, the one whose daughter he'd helped. Learned the girl was recovering well, would need additional surgeries, but the prognosis was good. The doorman didn't judge him for what had happened, just thanked him again for helping when it mattered. Small connections, small kindnesses. It wasn't much, but it was something to build on. A week later, Rachel called with news. Maya's lawyer worked out a deal. 20 years, eligible for parole in 12 with good behavior. It's not great, but considering the charges, it could have been life without parole. Can I see her? I can arrange it. But Victor, you need to understand, she's going to federal prison for a long time. Whatever relationship you two had, it's not going to survive that. I just want to thank her, that's all. Rachel arranged the visit. Victor drove to the federal detention center in Dublin, went through security, waited in a sterile visiting room until they brought Maya in. She wore an orange jumpsuit, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked younger somehow, or maybe just tired. You didn't have to come, she said, sitting down across from him. I wanted to. I heard about your deal, 20 years. Better than I expected, honestly. My lawyer says I might get out in 12 if I keep my head down and stay useful. Maya managed a small smile. Plenty of time to figure out who I want to be when I grow up. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is the consequence of my choices. I accept that. She leaned forward slightly. Are you doing okay? Rachel says your deal went through. Community service, restitution, probation. I'm working with a nonprofit that helps at-risk youth, trying to steer them away from the kind of life I led. Victor shrugged. It's not running a criminal empire, but it feels more real somehow. That's good. I'm glad you found something. Maya was quiet for a moment. I wanted to tell you something before I got locked up, but I didn't know how, so I'm saying it now. You gave me hope that I could be something other than what I was, that I could choose differently. That mattered to me. Still does. You saved my life multiple times. That matters to me. We saved each other. That's what makes it count. Maya stood as the guards signaled their time was up. Take care of yourself, Victor. Build something good. Live the kind of life we both should have been living all along. I will. I promise. She walked away without looking back. Victor watched her go, feeling the weight of everything they'd been through together, everything they'd survived. She'd spend the next 12 years in prison, but she'd done it on her own terms, facing what she'd done instead of running from it. Outside, the California sun was bright and warm. Victor drove back to Sausalito, to the cottage Maya had arranged, to the new life he was building from the ruins of the old one. It wasn't the life he'd planned. It wasn't the empire he'd spent 20 years creating, but it was his, earned through truth instead of taken through violence. He spent the next year working with the nonprofit, mentoring kids who reminded him of his younger self, angry, desperate, looking for belonging in all the wrong places. He testified at Isabella's trial, watched her get sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. Cole got 25 for his role in the conspiracy and for arranging Rashford's murder. Rachel left the FBI, started working as a private investigator specializing in wrongful conviction cases. Torres stayed with the Bureau, got promoted to a supervisory role. Shaw expanded his practice, took on more clients who'd been victims of prosecutorial misconduct. Victor sold the Sausalito cottage after a year and moved to a smaller place in Oakland. He didn't need much anymore, just enough space to live, to think, to figure out who he was supposed to be now. He visited Maya when the prison allowed it. Short conversations across a metal table that somehow mattered more than all the years he'd spent building his empire. 3 years after everything fell apart, Victor stood in front of a community center in the Tenderloin, watching kids file in for an after-school program he'd helped establish. It was funded by the restitution money he'd paid, run by people who actually cared about making a difference. His name wasn't on any of the paperwork. He was just a volunteer, just someone who showed up and tried to help. It was enough. His phone rang. Rachel's number. Hey, he answered. Did you hear? Maya's first parole hearing is scheduled for next month. Her lawyer thinks she has a real shot. After 3 years? She's been a model prisoner, helped other inmates get their GEDs, testified in 4 additional cases, saved a guard's life during a prison incident. The warden wrote a letter supporting her release. Rachel's voice was warm. I thought you'd want to know. Thanks. I do. Victor hung up and looked at the community center again. Kids laughing, arguing, being kids. Normal, messy, imperfect lives full of possibility. He'd spent 20 years chasing power and wealth, building an empire that collapsed in a single night. Now he spent his days trying to help kids avoid the mistakes he'd made. It wasn't redemption. He didn't believe in that. You couldn't undo the harm you'd caused, couldn't erase the choices you'd made. But you could choose differently going forward. You could build something better from the ashes of what you'd destroyed. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Victor pulled out his phone, sent a message to Maya's prison email account. Heard about your parole hearing, hoping for the best. The world's better with you in it. He didn't know if she'd get it before the hearing, didn't know if she'd even want to hear from him. But he sent it anyway, then put his phone away and walked into the community center. There was work to do, kids to mentor, lives to help guide in better directions. The empire was dead. The criminal life was over. Victor Steele had been destroyed, his reputation ruined, his power stripped away. What remained was just a man trying to do better, trying to be better, one small choice at a time. It wasn't the ending he'd imagined, but standing there in that community center, surrounded by noise and chaos, and the beautiful mess of people trying to survive, Victor realized it was the ending he needed. Sometimes you had to lose everything to figure out what actually mattered. Sometimes you had to be destroyed to be rebuilt into something worth being. He didn't know what the future held, didn't know if Maya would make parole, if his past would catch up with him, if the life he was building would last or collapse like everything else. But for the first time in longer than he could remember, he was okay with not knowing. The truth had set him free. Not from consequences, not from the weight of what he'd done, but from the need to be someone he wasn't. He could just be Victor now. Not Steele the crime lord, not the empire builder, not the powerful man everyone feared. Just Victor. Flawed, trying, human. It was enough.